Hey!
Well, Eric, you're supposed to say something now.
Yes, I know, but the guitar music is still going on in my earphones. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Hi, Eric. Can you hear me?
Is it still going on your earphones as well?
No.
That's it.
I can hear you, Steve, in real time, but I think Eric's got a big delay again.
There's a big delay, yes. But anyway, welcome to another exciting show. And hang on, there's a time delay.
Sounds okay for me.
Something weird's going on. Hello. Now, what's happening is everybody's out of sync, I think, and I've been sitting. I don't know what's going on.
It sounds okay to me, mind. I can see your lips moving in time with your with whatever you're saying.
I've got a delay. Yes. Hang on. I'll try and rectify it.
Okay.
Right. Hang on.
Anyway, Steve, that was really rather charming. Was that all pre-planned? Have you been plotting?
Not really. I didn't even do it. I didn't even do a rehearsal. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm glad you brought that up.
I was inspired by the fantastic entertainment we had on yesterday, and the two guys who were playing some rather cool music. I was quite impressed with that, particularly the last song they had on. I thought that was excellent.
I didn't catch yesterday's show. I was too busy sleeping. No, I don't know what I was doing, but I didn't catch yesterday's show. I knew he had some musical types on. I caught bits of it. Well, you'll just have to get a mic. You'll have to get a guitar mic and get mic'd up, and then you can do it all the time.
Hey, I could play a tune every now and again.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Every half hour, all the time. And we'll bring on the dancing girls, and we'll go to a break for our resident musician, and that's you. And then we need a dancing girl with a rose clenched between her teeth. And yeah, that's what we need. This would be good. And it makes for good radio because people have to imagine all this, which is probably better than them actually seeing it, because that would prove to be a bit distressing, wouldn't it? So, no, that's good. I don't know where Eric's gone. Are you still there, Eric? Are you alive?
I'm still here, yeah. I'm completely out of sync. I don't know what's going on.
It's the guitar music.
Eric, can you hear me now?
I could.
If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, then I want you to say 5. Let's find out how big the gap is. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I can see you. I'm out of sync. I don't know quite how to solve the problem.
Well, anyway, Steve, as we were saying, well, Eric, so Steve, looks like it's your show tonight. So it's Steve's show. There's been a coup here at Fockham Hall Broadcasting. Steve stepped in with the house band, and that's it, Eric. It's all over. I'm terribly sorry.
Now, I don't know what's going on, but I'm totally out of sync with everybody else. But I hope it's come into sync now. Am I?
No, you've got appalling internet connection and colossal delay, which I suspect is going to make fluid conversation virtually impossible.
For those listening in, the sound check was fantastic, wasn't it? There was absolutely no problems whatsoever. Then I played some music on my guitar, and it just went to pot.
I don't think, even though I know you want to lay claim to causing that, Steve, I don't think that's going to pan out. Frankly, I think Eric has been plagued with. Look, he's gone. He's just left us. He's had enough.
Oh dear.
So listeners and viewers, or whatever's going. Yeah, I guess we've got people on Rumble. You probably know the score. Eric's been plagued with bad internet for the last couple of shows, actually. He was with me on Thursday. I don't know what it was like last night. But maybe it's when I connect with him. Maybe we'll all have to go, Steve, and just leave you and your guitar for the next 2 hours. He's going to have to do. You're going to have to do a one-man solo show.
Tell you what, I can just see the music contract streaming in after that. I only know one tune. That was it.
Well, just make it last 25 minutes. They used to do that in the 70s with certain things. So you'll fill a whole side of an LP. Anyway, the producer of the show has left the building. He's legged it as Eric. Oh, hang on. And he's back.
I'm back. Yes, the gremlins went in, but we've sorted the problem out. I don't know. Who can I blame this on? Someone accidentally left it on YouTube and left it out of sync.
Oh dear. It wouldn't have been you by any chance.
I'm at a very difficult age. Yeah. But sorry about that, folks. I made a balls up.
Can I just say, if the music, the introduction music, if it didn't sound particularly great, was that something that you were doing, tweaking the sound effect or something? Or was it just
it was actually because I accidentally had a second channel on. I do apologise. And that is I'm sitting there going, "No, you don't know what's going on," but I do apologise for that. I was totally out of sync. Your guitar music sounded fantastic. So if we could have a rendition of that, seriously, in about another half an hour to an hour, that'd be fantastic. Shall we have that?
The same one, or do you want something else?
Whatever you want. That'll be your choice. And I think Aunt Sally wants to marry you. So if you've got a bit of time tomorrow, if your wife doesn't mind.
I'm still getting wrong for the last time I got a marriage proposal.
Well,
I can't see this comment. I can't see this comment, Eric, about Aunt Sally wanting to marry Steve. Where's that? Has it come up as a comment?
There is a comment. Yes. I'll just have a look, see where it is. Because where is it?
Somebody's pressing the love heart button.
Right. Let's have a look now. Live chat. No. Oh no, it's disappeared. Perhaps this as well. It's disappeared. Who knows? But at least we've sorted out the problem. And but anyway, welcome to another exciting show. Sorry about the balls up at the beginning. I don't know. Some silly sod. I don't know who was the problem. Get off. And I think that now tonight we're talking about what if. And before we started the show, I was talking about gentlemen's jackets. Hence this jacket. Do you know why men's jackets are fastened from the left to the right, and ladies are from the right to the left. Do you know the answer to that? Oh, well, you know the answer. I just told you,
Do
didn't I,
now.
Steve?
Yeah, if we say the answer, we'll steal your thunder. And I was kind of
Well,
tempted to do it a bit, but it would be rude of me as a guest. But yes.
It's when men had
Pray
swords.
tell, Eric, what's the answer?
Oh, by the way, no, Nathan, bloody cheek. It's your dementia, Eric. Yes, Fred. Oh, sorry, it's Nathan. No, what it is men used to have swords. And when they drew their sword from the right side, if their jacket was done up the opposite way round, their, as ladies would be, the hand would would actually go into the jacket. So this way it leaves the hand free to use the sword. That's the why. And the reason why ladies' jackets, the opposite way around, is because they had servants to button them up, and it was easier for the servants to button them doing it that way round. So there we go. Not many people know
What
that.
if you're left-handed swordsman? Would it be the other way around?
Well, like me. I suppose so. So I'd have a lady's jacket on.
Now we know. It's all coming out now. It's all
That's
coming
why
out
I'm left-handed. Well, actually, yes, I am left-handed. Well, bloody cack-handed, as most people have said. So my mother used to say, "I've never met anybody as cack-handed as you."
Hey, loads of the great guitarists were left-handed.
Hmm?
Just out of curiosity, and that's why I play right-handed, because I'm trying to break that mold. Yeah.
Yes. Well, did they have left-handed rifles in the army? I know the German army did. But
No.
Did you?
Well,
did they have
I haven't said that.
What happened to a left-handed person in the army? Did they sort of cack-handed with it?
Yeah, it depends on the rifle, but some of them the left-handers have to shoot what would essentially be a right-handed rifle with doing it slightly cack-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know whether there was stuff in the past which were specific for left-handers.
Well, in World War II, the German army, I think they were the only army that had rifles for left-handed people. Seriously.
Right, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, but Aunt Sully said, I always wondered about the buttons. I suspected it was a gentlemanly thing that we ladies got first dibs on having the buttons easier to fasten. No, it wasn't actually. It was to do with swords. And also, do you know why we have a buttonhole at the top of the jacket? It's one reason why I'm wearing a jacket tonight. Do you know why there's a buttonhole there? Where it came from? Because I used to have a button the other side, and the jacket was more of a long coat, and it's to fold over in the winter to keep you warm. And that was the practical use. And what they did, they just left that buttonhole there when we sort of didn't need that type of attire, but they still kept it. So there we are. Now, Hachi would like what we are. Says, Roger Whittaker, I don't believe in if anymore. It's illusion. So there we are. And he loves you all. Isn't that nice? But now, what if? Now, what we're saying is about government. Now, you often say about we don't need government. But the big problem, as I see it, is that government is like a drug addiction. People say, I thought of giving up government, but I voted again. It's getting to me. But it's when you look at, we are born and conditioned into believing we've got to look for a leader. But that is conditioning. And when you look at, say, country people or farmers, they have a different type of conditioning because they got to see the animals. They have got to be self-motivated. They've got to, and that's why, look at the Yellow Vests. They were mainly farmers. They weren't city folk. And that's why communists go for farmers, because they think for themselves and they don't want that. It's the last thing they want. And I think that it'd have to be done in very, very short steps at a time, because if we did away with government, say tomorrow or from this moment on, and I was talking to Nathan about this today, it would be absolute chaos. There'd be smashed windows, there'd be looting, there'd be absolutely horrendous. So any ideas on how we would do this in gradual increments, gradual steps, where...
Yeah.
So far away, Steve?
Yeah. So this answer is going to take me about 18 hours, but by the end of it, ladies and gentlemen, you will know that government are the most dangerous superstition because no, actually, I'll give you a very short answer because I understand we're on a schedule and we've got lots of fart gags to get in as well. But
Yes.
government are not only a dangerous superstition, they are an illusion. Government and authority does not exist anywhere else in nature. It only occurs in the fabric of a mind that is not fully functioning. And that probably sounds like Steve's been drinking too many of these and he's talking out of his bottom again. But no, with enough study and knowledge, especially about something called objective morality, and again, this kind of subject is not widely known to a great deal of people, even though it's not complicated. And also natural law, which I've mentioned a few times on your talk show. It will prove that government is not only not necessary, it is actually dangerous. So I'm just going to round up my answer, which hopefully will draw upon this during the this evening's talk. Sorry, I can't see that's on the screen. What does that say?
Well, Alice Gold just says, Nathan, after the Velvet Revolution was a happy time, no government torment.
Right, yeah, and that's how our future could be. But first, we'll need to realise that when we talk about government are high treasonous international terrorists. If you wanted an explanation of what government are, what they stand for, and what they represent, they stand for high treason and international terrorism. So that makes anybody who believes in the concept of an illusion called authority also believe that high treason engaged upon our own citizens and international terrorism is worth your money because we're funding them. Well, I'm not. I don't pay them a penny. I never will. Arrest me all you want, another 3 times in the last 4 years for bullshit. But government as well, the word government, I've mentioned this many times. The word government means mind control. Government reside in parliament, and parliament means to speak lies. Parler, to speak, a French verb, and mentir, lies, to speak lies. So that's what we need to realise when we speak about government and the Houses of Parliament. Well, have a laugh at their expense because these are the mind controllers who speak lies, who are international terrorists committing high treason against us. And look at us, we're paying for them. How crazy are we?
That's right. I mean, Barefoot Forum just said, I live with the gypsies. Now, now that's another thing to look at, gypsies. I don't think there would be chaos here. And who are the first people that totalitarian governments go after? Gypsies.
Yeah, exactly.
And farmers.
Disabled, if you look at certain aspects, certain groups in history, disabled, the elderly, the mentally infirm, the burdensome lives, as some regimes have called them.
Useless eaters, as Stalin called them. But Paul, what's your impression? What's your view?
It's difficult to get away from the word government, isn't it, to some degree, because we've all said it a lot and you've heard it a lot. I think about this in lots of different ways, I suppose. I keep thinking about what was the first organizing principle amongst tribes, for example. In other words, there are going to be, if you take a group of people, there are going to be people who are comparatively stronger than others in a group. Yeah. Either physically, intellectually, possibly both. Taller people are more intelligent, by the way. I found that out today. I'm serious, right? I'm not making it up. And maybe not intelligent. No, they can't be that intelligent because apparently if you're over 5'9", you've got a much higher incidence of coronary heart disease. I've heard some stuff today. But if we were to wind it back, I always remember there's a guy called He wrote a book called Critical Path, Buckminster Fuller. It's a wonderful book for those of you who haven't read it. He wrote it when he was 81. So if he had all his marbles. Brilliant guy, Buckminster Fuller, an original thinker, very much so, an engineer, all sorts of things, thought about everything, a polymath, really. One of the things he talked about in his book, there's a little example where he's talking about how does kingship or leadership or the chief of the tribe situation, how did it possibly come about? And there's a very simple sort of example. Suppose we are just, we gather berries, for example. We're a tribe that eat a lot of fruit and we're all 5'5", but somebody in the tribe's 6'5", because this used to happen, right? So we can reach up to the fruit that we can reach at 5 foot. After that, we're stuffed. The guy that's 6'5" can get all the other fruit. So everybody starts going up to him. I'm just looking at the dynamics of where power begins and what it actually is, possibly. Maybe I'm not looking at that. Maybe we're just looking at fruit. But you go up to him and you say, hey, mate, you see that fruit up there? I can't reach. Would you get that? And he goes, at first, he goes, yeah. Well, pretty soon everybody in the tribe's coming and tapping him up to do this. And he's getting tired out. And he's thinking, this isn't right because it isn't. You go. So he needs favors back for what he's doing. And from just a simple illustration like that, you begin to get the development of hierarchies of power. Now, is what I've just described bad? No, I suppose you could say not yet. So in the early stages, it seems to me that there's always a requirement under certain situations for a guide or a leader or someone who has the ability to do something that others can't do at that moment in time. And by doing it, he or she renders service unto everybody else. And if that's taken advantage of, then there has to be some kind of a payback because that's how nature works. So that's, I mean, you know, that's what we have to look at. I mean, if you look at old tribes, it was the biggest guy who swung the axe the quickest was the most ruthless. And he possibly did it to defend himself against all the other guys that wanted to pull him down to start off with. There'd be jealousy amongst the other ones. You know, he might be 6'3" and there's other guys at 6'1" and they're going, bloody hell, I want all that kind of. So you've got all this human stuff going on. And it's going on with us all the time. Of course, we're through 3,000-4,000 years through the back end of supposedly trying to live a civilized life. And I think for a great stretch of it, we managed to do that. Unfortunately, all those sorts of the channels of power and the use of force has become ever more sophisticated in the hands of what we now call elected governments. And it has sort of matured, it seems to me, to such a degree that we are the actual basic fulfillment or the basic needs that it fulfilled have now become abused to a colossal degree. So I don't think it's an easy question to answer. I'm for good governance of myself by myself, right? It's when you start to get into groups, and I don't always achieve that, you know, it's like self-control. So this is all part of the things that we have to face. But I think it's a challenge. It's not easy. Plato wrote about it. Aristotle did. These guys had a lot of thinking time available, far more than we do during our lives. They're not as sort of hectic. Of course, they were a privileged class of people. I think Plato talks about what was the ideal. It's either Plato or Aristotle, that the ideal solution is philosopher kings. They're difficult to find these days. And I guess in our mythology, you think about someone, say, like King Arthur. No one has a bad feeling about King Arthur. Yet he was king. He bossed people around because he had to. He had to organize the tribe to defend itself against the Romans. There's several King Arthurs, by the way. There's at least two. And stuff like that. So what do all the guys in the tribe say? Hey, Arthur, bugger off. You're not in charge. Okay, well, we all get wiped out then. You can see this has come about. It's not sort of something that's come about rapidly. There's been an evolution of this, and it's been based on pressing needs and survival to start off with. So if the guys of the tribe and the gals of the tribe don't get together and actually stand shoulder by shoulder under certain circumstances, they go under, and everybody's not keen on that. So those that have got the ability to organize it, you know, I could go on with all this, but you get the idea. What I'm saying is I think it's multi-layered. If we look at today, I think we can be highly critical of certain things that are taking place, obviously. And people have always been highly critical of this stuff. The main thing is that democracy is a pretty poor way of actually organizing yourself. I don't think Plato was too keen on it. It really is mob rule. But, if we do need to be governed by philosopher kings, I'm not aware of any place that's actually producing them. It should probably be Oxford and Cambridge, to be quite honest, right? If you think about it. Unfortunately, all those people, they get hived off into the establishment and continue the ways that have been established around here for at least the last 1,000 years. So it's difficult. We're dealing with a very mature system that's almost in their blood about how they stay in charge and basically, ruin our lives, unfortunately, whether they're aware of it or not. I haven't really answered the question because for me, it just throws up more and more and more questions at the moment. So don't know if it's
It's like the old song.
Go on, Eric.
No, I was going to say, it's like the old song. There are more questions than answers.
I mean, I can answer all of them. I mean, it sounds quite difficult and complicated on the scheme of things. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a thing that anybody, well, certainly not me, would have deduced overnight. This takes quite a long time of internal processing, logical reasoning, and truth seeking. Good government is a logical fallacy. It can never, ever, ever exist, ever. And I don't know if I said that enough times, but it can't ever exist. Why? Because government, well, first and foremost, authority does not exist in nature. We aren't beings who were from birth given rightful ownership of our being to anybody else. There's no rightful ownership, property ownership of a human being. If there was, that definition would be known as slavery. So if slavery is acceptable, well, that's what we are, because we are under government authority, because we have accepted ownership of our beings to another group or individual. That's known as slavery, so we are slaves. I don't particularly think that's a good idea, but billions of people, however, have overridden my logical deduction here and actually think that they need to be slaves. Otherwise, if they weren't slaves, then they wouldn't be trusted to live on the planet that they were born upon as free human beings. Bearing in mind, everybody from the day they're born are anarchists. That word means no masters. So if everybody is an anarchist from the day they're born, what goes wrong? Well, I'll tell you what goes wrong. People get brainwashed under mind control. Where does that come from? The government, because the word government means mind control. But in order to mind control billions of people, what they have to do, and the way they do it, is they indoctrinate people into a state of what's known as duress. Duress is the threat of violence. So if you don't obey government authority, who don't have any rightful authority over us, they've got to steal and acquire that through manipulation and mind control, we enter a subconscious state of duress, which is the threat of violence. If we then breach that barrier, because let's say, for example, I don't listen to government at all because I'm an anarchist, that means no masters dictate my actions in this world. What that means is if I fall foul of something that they've ordered me to do, like I say, I've been arrested before, so I know how that system works. That's not duress, that's actual violence. So they enact and impart violence upon people like myself just for doing what nature intended, which is to be free, to be sovereign, and to have property ownership of my own body. So government can't exist as good government. It doesn't exist. It's a logical fallacy. It'll never exist. So I don't know if that wraps it up. But
what's on? And if you are arrested, the best thing you can say is no comment until you get your solicitor next to you. So anything the police ask you, no comment. And the other thing is, if they are told you're forced to sign anything, put V.C. in front of your signature, which is Latin for Vici Actus, which I was told, but there's different it means under duress, but there are other meanings to it. So, for example, if I go to, I don't know, optician, I'll sign this, V.C, sign, under
Yeah.
duress. So signature is meaningless. Council tax or anything like that. So to council, anything to do with any officials, V.C. That's it, by Cactus. So it means that your signature is basically useless because you have to sign everything nowadays. The only time I don't do V.C is when I have something delivered from, delivery vans. I mean, I don't really want to piss them off, and I've accepted the goods, so there we go. There it is. So over to you, Paul. Sorry.
No, I've spoken. Like Paul, have a rebuttal or.
No, I don't think I'm rebutting. Yes. I'm just sat here pondering. I don't disagree with anything you've said. I'm just hard pressed to find an example in history where what you're talking about has ever really existed for more than 10 minutes in a conversation. It's not that I'm against it. It's just I'm looking at the way human beings actually are, the way that they've always been, as far as to the best of my knowledge, right? From as far back as we can go, we've had kings. So our king's government, it would appear that they are, right? It would seem that they are. If you go into scripture, those tribes in the scripture used to be governed by judges at one point. That didn't turn out too well for them. The idea of the judges was to apply the laws of God, as they are written down in the narrative. Whether you agree with that or not is not really what I wanted to go into, but that's how the framework of that story goes. And then all the other tribes around them started to acquire kings, so they said they wanted one, even though God, in the narrative, strongly advised against it. I'm understating it there, like no. But they wouldn't let go of it, so we ended up with kings. It'd be interesting to know how long we've had these things called kings or monarchs. And of course, the actual situation, I'm saying of course, but it appears that the actual situation is that these bloodlines have managed to retain control of the real sort of power centers within civilized life, if that's what we want to call it, for a long time. That their understanding of population control, crowd control, how to pressurize the people. And I guess in their own mind, if we look at it we can look at what they're doing from a positive and a negative. I can't get into their shoes, thankfully, because I haven't been brought up in that way. But they come from a long line of people who've been in charge, and they may well view it that, yeah, we've done some bad things, but overall we've done more good than bad. I mean, of course, they could be thinking the other way. They might be just pure evil and go, this is just fantastic, ruining everybody's lives. I don't quite see that, because if they did have unlimited, unbridled power, they could have sort of wiped us out completely if that's what they wanted to do. So we're useful to them. And I haven't really got an answer for it at the moment because I just see it as being so complicated. My sort of personal approach is to try and remove negatives wherever I see them. That's about it. That's the best I can hope for. In my own mind, I'm not pursuing some kind of utopia. I don't think it exists. In the universe, there's opposing forces. The whole thing, the aberrated idea, say, behind communism is to solve this. Seriously, that's what it's about, isn't it? We've got all these problems. The working class, the proletariat are being disempowered. The bourgeoisie and all these crap terms that they came up with. They're holding all this stuff. We've got to take it off them. We'll have to kill them all. Yeah, that'll be great. And then it's all going to be fantastic. Of course, it's a lot of manure because all that happened was that one form of government, i.e. democracy, ho, 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 or monarchical government, was replaced by a Bolshevik Politburo, which kept saying to the people, we're doing you a load of good. But the actual truth was that all these people were dead, like in colossal numbers. So it's, if you were I'd just say it's a matter of choosing the least worst solution, given the way that human nature is. And I don't expect it ever to be perfect. It may actually be perfect right now in the sense that the troubles that we face continually are required to have some sense of motivation in life. I mean, if you actually think about utopia, it reminds me of that thing we were talking about a few weeks ago, the pursuit of it, which was Mousetopia, that was created by that American chap whose name I keep forgetting.
1972, wasn't it?
set up perfect conditions. All the mice are completely happy. They're all completely free. They don't have a boss. They get all their food and everything. And after 6 months, they're all dead because they go out of their minds being bored. There's no danger. They actually need danger in your life. I know it sounds weird, but you do. And the more you look at these things, you need sort of some motivating reason to get out of bed. And the worst days for me are when I get up and I just go, what am I doing? Do you ever get like that? It's not really a worst day. I'm laying it on a bit
yes.
you get up and you go, what am I doing? What am I using my time for? Is this really sensible what I'm doing? You know? Yeah. And yet when something irritates you or gets you outraged, it's a motivating factor. It's almost like, oh, you've got to give us some enemies. Otherwise we're all going to get bored. Right. I guess it's the degree to which they are abusing their position. And the great, just on a personal level, my frustration is there are so many other brilliant solutions to these problems which never get put into motion. There's tons of stuff that we could do. And I don't believe that if we do all those things, that would therefore rid us of all problems. No, we were always going to have them, thankfully. I mean that. We're always going to have problems, thankfully, because they're like that post. They're like, the cat needs the post to sharpen its claws. You need something. You've got to have it. Otherwise, there's got to be light and dark in the universe, because there is light and dark.
Well, I'll entirely agree with you there. Just because you change, and let's just say you change any system of government, even if you get abolished government and have a system of voluntarism or anarchy, which is no rulership. That doesn't mean the world will not have problems, but what it will mean is it won't have violent terrorists genociding the population. So a lot of people will say...
Are you sure, Steve? I'm not so sure about that. Right?
Well,
I'm not so sure. If you look at how tribes operate before they even develop sophisticated government...
Okay,
right?
So how many tribes in recent history provably have genocided 260 million people in the last 100 years outside of armed combat? How many tribes have killed anywhere near that figure in the last 100 years?
Well, not many, but I suppose the number, I don't think is important. I'm serious as well. The number is achievable because of the organized civilizational communication systems that we've set up. I mean, if we want to look at one tribe, it's about the intent with these things. I'm sure that when they seek to genocide someone, the idea is if there's one or a million and one, they want to take them all out for whatever reason. I mean, the one that leaps to mind most recently, because it appeared to be savage, was the Houthis and the Tutsis, in Africa.
Yeah.
That was pretty full-on
Rwanda.
stuff, right?
Rwanda.
Yeah, then you've also had Serbia and the bordering country, the 1990s thing with Clinton, all that kind of stuff.
And we've got Nigeria now, haven't we? Because Nigeria, what they're doing, they're killing off the Christians.
And look at our relationship with the Scots here, up until relatively recent times, right? It was... Have we got a lot in common? Yeah. Do we believe in the laws of God? Yeah, but it still didn't stop people kicking off.
So can I just ask you, how many of these groups and rebellions you've mentioned didn't have any government or authoritative involvement in them, such as Rwanda? Was there no government involved in Rwanda? Or was that just one tribe versus the other? A bit like Northern Ireland.
I assume that they did. I'm assuming that they did, but you could say it's tribal chief leadership. Isn't that what used to exist before governments?
Well, not everywhere.
I'm just saying, if you track it back and look at human nature and stick us in a group, I've mentioned this before, right, and put us in a situation, natural leaders regarding that situation will arise. And because most of the people who might not have the skill set to deal with that want to survive it, they turn to the guy or the gal or the group of them and say, you know more about this than we do. I'm here to serve whatever you say. In other words, you could say, I'm willing to be a slave for the cause of the tribe, and I'm willing to die for it. Some people are. If you do a cross-section of people, there's a small percentage that are. They find, and you go, this is mad, is it? It might be mad, but it just seems to be ancient. I'm just saying it's ancient. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just observing it for what it is.
I knew a girl that was an anthropologist, and she said that tribes that have a hierarchy system with a chief are the most warlike, and the ones that don't have a hierarchy system where they honour the people are given the people the most wisdom they worship, they abide by, are the most peaceful.
Mhm.
And there are tribes in Amazon and Africa who are totally peaceful. They've never actually been to war. They haven't actually had enemies as such. Zoe tribe in Amazon is a typical example. They're not warlike at all. They called them the Marian tribe and the happy tribe because they're
Well,
happy.
maybe you have to go join them. I mean, I'm not.
Maybe, baby.
It's
Yes,
tricky. There's a comment I've got to read out here when I was just talking there. That's life, but not as that's life, but not as we know it. Says, not a lie, Paul. You still hate us Scots. I do. I personally do not. Never have. Right. I grew up with him in Leeds. Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't understand Bill Cameron. I couldn't understand him, mate. It wasn't because he was a Scot. It's because when I walked home with him, he was half drunk all the time, and he had a very thick Glaswegian accent to start off with, which I could just make out when I was about 10 or 11. But when he'd had a few beers, it was literally impossible for me to understand anything he was saying. But I really like the Scots. So
apart from their haggis.
I mean, it's just up the road. No, even tribes here. Look at England. It's relatively small. You had these 7 kingdoms, and yet they still had brilliant thinkers. We think, oh, they were all just no. It's just most of our history just keeps on getting destroyed and hammered and thrown down the toilet to sort of let you know that you've had good thinking people. There's always an admixture of people in large scale populations.
That's right.
I'm not
saying
it's good, but there just is, isn't it? You know.
Well, Aunt Sally said here, Paul English, if you apply the rules of the book of Job, then it makes perfect sense that our rulers are evil. So
that's a good point. I mean, my opening comment was government or mind controllers who speak lies, and they're high treasonous international terrorists. So I would equate that, if you wanted to equate that in one word, I would quite happily use the word evil. So if anyone thinks government is a good idea, well, you also think evil is a good idea. And if we were to narrow down what evil is, well, let's into like religious, spiritual context. Well, let's use the word Satanism to describe the government. Satanism is evil, government are evil. The difference is what they'll tell you what the difference is. Millions of people who don't know any better because they've been poorly informed about concepts of morality and natural law think government is essential because they think that without it, the world would be chaotic and violent because they're under significant amounts of mental trauma based on indoctrination of a corrupt education system and a society that does not grasp moral concepts. That's it. And if we want solutions, the solution to that is to educate society at a greater scale in morality and natural law. And when that happens, I'm not saying the world will turn into utopia, but it'll certainly be better than millions of people getting forced with a. It'll be better than wearing a when you go to a shop, and it'll be better than getting one of these with your barcode on it so you can function in society. So if anyone thinks digital ID and all that forced medication and the lockdowns and everything that went with that is a good idea, well, carry on with your dangerous religious cult belief in the concept of authority, which does not exist in nature. It only exists in the a diseased mind that does not understand or accept morality. In fact, if you don't mind me mentioning what morality is, just so we're in a clear understanding, morality is essentially at its lowest level is understanding the objective difference between right and wrong. So that sounds like, wait a minute, we're not in primary school. Why do we even have to do this? Yeah, it's a bit crazy, isn't it? But I could ask a million people, and this has been done many times by plenty of researchers, what's the difference between right and wrong? So I'm just going to say it for what it is. A right is any action that causes no harm to any other living being. That's
and
it.
they reckon that we've been told that nature is at each other's throat. You know, it's violent. They've discovered that trees actually look after each other in the forest. They communicate with each other, and when there's flies and that type of thing around that is going to be harmful to the tree, they tell the other trees by some method, so that the leaves give off a kind of chemical that puts the flies off. But I like what that's life, but not as we know it. Says it says, what do you call a war between two cannibal tribes? A food fight. It's like a bit like the three cannibals,
Nice
and three cannibals and one dies. And one says to the other one, "It's only wasted a minute." He says, "Yeah." He said, "Bloody strange." He said, "But how are we going to share them out equally?" You've probably heard this one, haven't you? And he says, "Well, when I lived in England, I actually lived in Liverpool. Sorry, Hartley. Sorry, I lived in Hartlepool and supported Liverpool Football Club, so I have the liver and the heart." No one says, "Well, I lived in Cockfosters and supported Arsenal, but I don't feel very hungry at the moment." Sorry.
Well, can I just add to a few things I've made there?
Certainly, yes.
We've talked about government being an evil, religious, and dangerous cult that operates just purely on the illusion of people who are under severe mind control. I was under severe mind control when I was a soul dead individual. And I use the word soul dead because that's what the word soldier means. So a soldier, and I'm just going to tell people, viewers, for what it is, a soldier, even though probably thousands, if not millions of people have just been honouring soldiers throughout various mass murder satanic ritual campaigns called war in the last few days. I never got into any, let's just say, mass murder rituals just because I didn't like people from third world countries. I participated in mass murder because I worked for the government who seem to think that mass murder is acceptable. Mass murder is evil, no matter what the reasons behind it is. And I mean, I've had this conversation many times with people who have got no concept of war and people who have got concept of war. I've got a 101% concept of war because I've done it for a job. I've wore the T-shirt and the rest of it. And I'll tell anybody, not just tell them because this is my thoughts, I'll tell them because this is the truth of the matter. All wars are bunk. Absolute horse manure.
I agree with you, which was, by the way, that's a very good time to, well, quickly read what Aunt Sally says. Aunt Sally says, what we saw during Dooflop, in my honest opinion, is how low and awful people will sink if they're told to. Yes, I agree with you. But this is a marvellous segue into tomorrow's show that Paul and myself are going to do, and people are invited. We're going to do an alternative remembrance, because tomorrow is the 11th of the 11th, and it happens to be the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And we're going to have a minute's silence during the show. We're going to be going live, and I think we're going to do it on your platform, aren't we, Paul? I think it's going to be on Soapbox, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll go out on Soapbox. I'm sticking it on my Rumble channel and on my YouTube channel, and anybody else can pick it up and relay it. We're going to start at 10:30 and probably end at 11:30, and it will be 2 minutes silence, Eric, because I looked it up. It's 2 minutes. Did you know that?
It is 2 minutes, but I usually do a 1 minute because that's Fogham Hall, isn't it? We just do a 1 minute, but that's up to you. You want to do a 2 minute, but I think it's a bit long on the radio, isn't it? 2 minutes. I thought 1 minute would be.
I don't know. I've got this nice, following your suggestion, I've got this nice recording of meadowlarks singing in a field, and it seems to be. I think that'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay. So that's it. So it's a breakfast show. So it's going to be absolutely useless to American listeners because it's 5:30 in the morning or anything like that. But
although
so
Patrick might join us. Patrick might join us. But see, the thing is, the show
4:30 is 4:30 in the morning for him when we start.
Is it? Just to let you know. But it's the show is called Why. Just a simple word, why, and that is a very famous sculpture that somebody did in America, and he got into a lot of trouble with it, and it showed you a GI in, I think it was Vietnam, holding his dead friend, and underneath it just said why, and I think it was a fantastic sculpture. and he got into a hell of a lot of trouble. But now, as you said, what's Paul English YouTube channel? Well, we'll be advertising it. I'll be advertising it as well as much as possible. And it's got I think you'll be on YouTube and also Rumble, won't you, Paul? And also Soapbox, Holy Land Radio, and Holy Land FM. What's on Cobbly and all. So that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, all the links, Hatchy, can be found at my website, paulenglishlive.com. If you look on the side there's a YouTube link and a Rumble link, and it'll just bring you into wherever we're running. So maybe it's a trial run for a breakfast show as well, Eric. So there we go.
Well, that's right.
On about doing a breakfast show, but we're just going to do an hour tomorrow from about 10:30 to 11:30 because you've got to go off and actually buy some breakfast afterwards, don't you, or something like that. So
well,
it's terrible.
The thing is,
you're not doing the show on an empty stomach. It would be awful.
I've got a major trade deal to do with the Iceland, the supermarket, whether to buy a pack of 4 beef burgers or a pack of 8. It's a very, got a lot to think about, and I'm going to buy me fish in there as well. But no, going shopping. But no, what I was going to say is, if you're on Telegram, I've dropped on something I did. You can, if you're not on Telegram, just go on to warveteran.co.uk. But if you're on Telegram, it's on there. I did a film called The War Justification Industry. It lasts for about 18 minutes. It's not a very long. And there's no dialogue in it. You just have some things you read. But it is something that is, some people, so it's a tearjerker. I know somebody got very emotional over it. I actually did the film soon after my father died, so it had quite a lot of emotion in it. It's about 13 years old, so it's well worth watching. It's called The War Justification Industry. I couldn't put it on YouTube because it's too controversial, so it's on some other thing. Was it Motion something? Some other platform that I found.
You could probably upload it to your Rumble channel when you get some time, Eric.
Yeah, I'll upload it to the Rumble, and I think now I might be able to get away with it on YouTube. But it's quite a bit of a. It's a bit. I mean, I will find tomorrow a little bit emotional, shall we say? I generally get emotional about this time because I think that. When you see how veterans were treated, and they're treated today, it is absolutely appalling. It really is. And
there's nothing new with that. There's nothing new with that. I mean, the soldiers that came back from the Napoleonic Wars, all out there with one leg and doing stuff. It's always been like that, tragically, or it seems to have always been like that. That the returning soldiers are an embarrassment to the government that actually sent them off to die. What are you coming back alive for? And all that kind of stuff. I think also, I mean, the last century in particular, no doubt we'll talk about this tomorrow, but the last century in particular was just sort of off the charts slaughter. Because of the effects of the mechanized effects of war. I mean, prior to that, you could only slaughter at the speed that a horse ran or that you could wield your sword, right? This is, of course, they got guns in the Napoleonic Wars and they began to wreak a bit of havoc, cannons and things like this. But prior to that, it was at the level of physical combat. I'm not arguing for it. I'm just pointing it out. I think the thing about government is, has that, just going back to the government thing as well. If we look at World War I and say, well, the British started it, which is true, of course. Is it the British that actually started it? I don't think greengrocers in Bolton started it, right? That's what I mean. The actual
it was
British
started by a Masonic order, a Serbian Masonic order.
Absolutely. And the point I was sort of coming to is that we had a government that got overwhelmed by other groups. This is quite, in other words, once you've got these power centers developed, say, through government, other vested interest groups that have self-appointed themselves as rulers of the world made use of it. And they all get infiltrated. And there's a sort of paranoia that builds up. Maybe paranoia is not exactly the right word. There's a desperation that builds up, I think, in these people that are in charge to never, ever lose control. And they therefore become psychopathic in the sense that the lives of all our men dying is worth it to keep this nation going. Yeah, but not for them, mate. They won't be able to. they're not going to be around afterwards to enjoy this great victory or these great spoils or whatever it is that you think you're going to attain. And yet, when you look at all these multiple nations against, sitting cheek by jowl across northwestern Europe, and you look at the whole history of warfare for the last 400 or 500 years, mainly between us, much of it, although we've had supposedly a period of some peace since 1945, although not if you're in the Ukraine and not if you're in Serbia and so on and so forth, or Afghanistan and places like this. There's always something kicking off somewhere.
You're right.
They've got a kind of paranoia that if they don't sort their country out, this other one down the road is going to get stronger and come along and kick shit out of them. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's going to take place based on human nature.
Paul, I'm going to have to stop you there. That's absolute bunk of the highest degree. Yes. I was nearly 30 years in the military. I think I know bunk when I hear it. This is the big lie. Just like Nazi Germany had something called the big lie. It's the big lie. Just like the Cold War was the big lie. Just like international terrorism is the big lie. There's the boogeyman. It's China. It's Iran. It's Iraq. It's Libya. It's some other nation. No, it's not. It's your own nation. It's your own nation. It's your own government who sell lies in order to manipulate and brainwash people in order to get them to oil the mechanism of the military-industrial complex. I never went to a single war. Bear in mind, I didn't know this at the time. I never went to a single place that wasn't manipulated and pure bunk on the bequest of the British government, who force-fed lies, propaganda, and manipulation to the British public. And I'm speaking about Britain here, but it's no different to any other country, because let's just take the Five Eyes Nations, for example.
That's the point, Steve, I'm trying to make. I don't disagree with anything you've said. I think you've misunderstood what I'm saying. Every single one of these nations operates like that. And therefore, the leaders of each of them know how the leaders of the other ones are going to operate. This is part of this sort of comprehensive interlocking problem. So it's easy to marshal the lie and get it to work, because there's a lot of evidence historically for the population to absorb and go, yeah, they are bad. Of course, the organs of media amplify this literally, and predominantly World War I is where many of these techniques were developed, because we had newspapers in huge numbers. They weren't around in the Napoleonic Wars to the same degree. And apart from which, the vast majority of people couldn't read and write back then. So they weren't able to absorb the news in the way that they could later on. But it's an interlocking, mutual, hellish relationship between the governments of all these nations.
Yeah.
They're actually like in an interlocking grid. It benefits them at the expense of their population every single time. And that's part of the problem. I don't know how to unpick that. I'm just observing it. I haven't got a judgment about it. I'm just saying that is what's going on.
I mean, I have. And I mean, if you wanted to unpick it, well, we've already proved that government are liars, mass manipulators, and they use and rely upon brainwashing to manipulate people in order to create mass murder. And not only that, I mean, I'll probably not mention how or why today, but I can. And I do presentations on how warfare is not just morally wrong, it's actually satanic mass murder rituals, satanic rituals based on lies in order to spill blood as part of their satanically minded psychopathy. But apart from that, I mean, that takes probably a little bit more than 5 minutes to explain how and why that's the truth. But apart from that, if we know that governments are responsible for perpetuating this kind of event, which is all wrong, every last bit of it, there's no part of lying, manipulating, brainwashing, propaganda, and false flags in order to generate X, Y, and Z is morally correct. Why does anybody with one set sense of moral understanding support? In fact, why is the whole nation not bearing pitchforks as I speak? This is a bit I can't understand. Why is anybody in Britain and beyond not sharpening a pitchfork and actually using it against the people who are lying to them deliberately and murdering their young men? It's absolutely ludicrous. And not only that, all of these lunatics, the latest bunch of lunatics, the hypocritical sycophants lying, mass murdering, international high treasonous terrorists of the UK government will be pretending to shed a tear over the unknown soldier at the cenotaph tomorrow. It is absolutely sick. I do not, and I mean, other than the fact that if I'm, if you're doing a show on it, I'd gladly participate in that. I don't do any of the remembrance parades whatsoever. I have done in the past, and I've laid wreaths at the cenotaphs. I've done all that. The best thing I can do to honour my mates who have been blown to bits in war is to not participate and support warfare or the people who organised and perpetrated any way whatsoever. And I will absolutely do everything I can to make sure that my understanding of this absolute lies is brought forward to as many ears as possible. Whether people choose to accept that or not, I don't know, but...
By the way, yes, we have Anorak. So evening, Mr. Anorak.
Yes, apologies for my delay in arriving. It wasn't by train or bus. One of my friends called me up who's in not the greatest of place at the moment, so I've been giving her a bit of support. But I agree with what you're saying there, Stephen, that it's the people who turn up at the cenotaph. It's a bit like a murder of a family member, and they turn up at the funeral. It's that sort of thing, isn't it, basically?
I agree. And what have the Royals done to get all those medals?
Well,
there's probably an answer in there somewhere, but...
But do you know something, Steve? Sorry, I don't mean to chime in, but smokers, people that are anti-smoking, the most ardent ones are the ex-smokers, I found, which is a very strange thing. Because they've been there, seen it, got the T-shirt. They smoked. And I mean, I worked with a bloke who was a chain smoker, and he gave it up. And he was the most ardent anti-smoker at all. He couldn't stand the smoke. You've been in war. You've been in the army. You've been there, seen it, got the T-shirt. And that has made you a more ardent anti-war person, I think, than the rest of us sitting here. Because you've seen it. You've been there. And I think that, I can see a lot of parallels between those of us that had parents that were forced into going into war. You volunteered, admittedly, but my father was a conscript. And the thing is that it's always the same old crap all the time. You look at the average German person, look at World War II, and the average British person, nice people, lovely people, all forced to go through this hellish existence and dehumanize another group of people. That's something, and this is what I find so disturbing, is how it can be disturbing, but it's not how they can be dehumanized, but it doesn't only affect the killing machine, it affects several generations afterwards. Because I always feel, I mean, look what's happening in a certain part of the Middle East at the moment. I feel for the children because they're seeing horrors or that they should never see at a young age. But even if they're not there, a parent that goes through that can affect the next offspring.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
A lot of people are affected. Yeah,
that's another. You could say that's a long-term strategic effect of war, is to make sure that generations further down the line will then be angered enough to be involved in warfare further down the line. It's a similar situation to why when the let's just say NATO leave a particular war zone, they leave all their instruments of battle behind, complete with manuals so they can fix them. Why? So in 20 years' time, they can go back to the same place and spill more blood, earn millions more money. Dick Cheney, for example, he died recently. Dick Cheney's Halliburton company earned $39 billion from the Iraq War. $39 billion. That's funny, isn't it?
Wow. Anyway, Steve, anyone fancy a musical break? Sorry, carry on, Paul. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was going to say something, I forgot. It's gone. I was going to say something, it's gone.
Oh, I'm most terribly sorry. Sorry, that was very rude of me. I do apologize.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry, I forgot.
Anyway, do you want a musical? Shall we have a musical break?
If it's not Happy Days, really, again,
No, we have
I've just
homegrown. We've got our Fockham's Minister of Defence and music.
Oh, am I playing another tune? How long do you want?
You've become the minstrel of the hour, Steve.
Yeah.
The minstrel of the
Getting a
hour.
bit serious now, so we need to lighten.
Exactly.
So here we go. So any
Can you do an
requests,
ABBA?
please?
Can you do an ABBA song
anything
for
to-
us?
God,
Yeah.
I'm right on the spot, yeah. How about that?
That was
Was that
sweet.
sta-
Excellent,
Was
very
that a
nice.
standard
Very nice.
ovation?
It was a sitting down ovation, if that counts.
You'll have to record them, Steve, and then they need to be, and then Eric can use them as his intro and outro music for the show.
That's right. Yes. Oh, bless. Nice music. And Aunt Sally said, "I'm throwing my bloomers at the screen right now." So there we go.
Oh, Aunt Sally, I'll be in the doghouse again.
No, she means
Yes.
she means the bread.
Ah, that's it. Yes. Yes. Mind you, when I was in Macau the other day, she was in front of me and flung her bloomers out the window. It did hit the windscreen. No, I'm only joking. Didn't happen. But I like that.
Well, you know, you were
But,
saying about you were collecting some burgers tomorrow, aren't you, from Iceland, Chris? Are they out
That's
there
right.
at the
They're
moment?
talking about.
Are
well,
they
they're
splitting
in
up
the
the
freezer at
roadkill
the
now?
moment.
If it says Pirelli on
No,
on it, you know it's been run over.
And cheeky sods have said the over 60s 10% discount. Yeah, I'm a tight-fisted git. I'm aware of that. Yeah. Discount paid. And but no, I actually go to a crappy Iceland in a town which I will not mention, so that less
Harlow.
people go there.
If it's Harlow, it probably is roadkill.
Well, remember what I said about Harlow? When you leave Harlow, part of Harlow leaves with you on the sole of your shoe.
Oh, dear.
And then it's sold to Iceland as burgers.
Actually, between you and I don't get any. But if Iceland's listening in, yeah, I wouldn't mind a few, Bob, for mentioning it. Paul English put me in touch with these burgers. What do you
I
think
am
of
of
Iceland
some use.
burgers, Paul? Yes, you're
Pardon?
most useful for something. What do you think of Iceland burgers? I mean, you put me in.
Well,
in
if you
whale
look
them
at the
and
box, if what it says on the box is true, then we're going to have to think that they are a big pinch of salt. Then they are the least polluted of any ones that you can buy. All there is
correct.
in them is beef and I think some black pepper, a small amount, and some salt. That's what it says. So that's why I think they hold up in the oven.
Is there a warning
That's
sign
it.
on them, Paul, that says may contain meat?
No, it's actually there isn't actually. There isn't. Iceland have a very small range, but what they do is generally pretty good. I don't know.
Angus, isn't
Good
it?
grief.
It's the
Supermarket
Angus
shopping
one.
shouldn't be. We just found, actually, one of my sons just found a meat supplier online. We're going to pay for it. You can buy a quarter of a cow for 750 quid. And we're thinking of it. I'll need to get a deep freeze. Seriously, it's all vacuum sealed, so you get a whole quarter of it. It's a bargain, right? And of course, you're going to go, well, are we going to go through that much meat? Well, there are 3 blokes in this house, so the answer is yes. We actually will. I think if you're an old age pensioner all by yourself, it might not be wise to have a whole quarter of a cow because it's an awful lot of meat. But the companies out there looking to feed this niche, as it were, for quality food. And I'm looking at my sort of expenditure, and this is awfully domestic, isn't it? And I'm thinking I've got my service bills to pay, and then the main service bill should be the quality of the food that goes into my body. And I'm thinking, could I improve that? And the answer is yes. So I am prepared to pay for it, even though the prices are ludicrous for food at the moment. But I am prepared to do it. There's no point getting ill, is there? If there's a way to get around it.
Right.
I've got visions of a helicopter flying across with a quarter of a cow hovering above your house, saying, "Here it is."
Yeah, you watched Apocalypse Now, haven't you? That's what it is, where they fly that cow around or whatever it is.
Is it the front, the middle, or the back?
I don't know. I think you get to pick. There's a big chart. And you go, well, I'll have a bit of this and a bit of that. I mean, the sirloins, obviously, there's a part of it that's the most expensive bit, right? So apparently the most powerful food in the world that you can eat is beef liver. It's off the charts. It's like rocket fuel for human beings is beef liver. So I'm just finding these things out. Yeah. I'm just about to order some beef liver capsules. Apparently they're amazing. It's going to, what is it? About 35 quid a month. So I've gone, yes, I think my budget constraints. So just over £1 a day. And it's got literally everything in it that your body needs. So I don't know why I'm a salesman for it. I haven't got any yet, but I'm going to get some and see what's going on, because I'm just thinking I'm probably not getting the correct stuff from the food that I'm eating, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Well, if you're on a
probably
keto
none of us
diet,
are.
I mean, I'm with a keto diet. Some people just don't eat meat. They don't have any vegetables. I eat vegetables, and also have plenty of eggs I get from the farm. And but the thing not to have, I only eat organic chicken. I will not have chicken from supermarkets because that's pumped full of growth hormones. Horrendous, and that's why people are so obese and ain't going down with illnesses, because you're eating growth hormones basically. But Nathan says, can I ask all of you on the show your top 3 solutions to the world's problems and how that would solve the problems we face, please? Yes, I think Paul and my top of the list is probably the same, if I'm mind reading you, Paul.
Yeah, it is. In pragmatic terms, in pragmatic terms, given that human beings stay the way that they are, so in terms of an external thing that needs to be shifted, it's the bank. The bank's got to be
usury,
because you see, we're talking about war. We're talking about war, but the adage "all wars are bankers' wars" is absolutely true, and it's always been about that. Some guy and his tribe want somebody else's stuff. That's it. Or they don't want the other tribe to get too much stuff because they get paranoid about it. It's about stuff. The weird thing now, the bit why it's aberrated, is that we've had the Industrial Revolution. We actually solved a lot of problems that had plagued us for a long time, very rapidly, at great human expense, of course. A lot of people died doing that. And now you still can't get it organized. It's as if an old behavior pattern of being anxious about losing your gear, which is what kings and monarchs and governments have, won't go away. So they're operating like on a dinosaur behavior pattern. So externally, you want to stop war, you've got to stop the banks. I don't think it would stop it entirely. You've got to ban usury. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, simply, you live in a nation and you don't own the bank. And this is wrong. So if we're in a tribe and we have a bank that we all basically are stockholders in, they're all right in shares and everything else when you're making a profit, but apparently we can't. We're not allowed to share in the ownership of our own bank, which is just basically a big measurement system. All money, it's just currency units to measure transactions. It's the sort of monetary equivalent of a tape measure.
Well,
Can't build a building
yeah,
without
but
an accurate tape measure. Well, you can't build a decent
Yeah, but
society without accurate money, and we haven't got it right now because we don't own it. So
but it should be
Well,
like Libya, where the profits of the country go into our pockets, not pockets of a minority of people.
But you see,
who are
now,
criminals.
of course, you extend it out from this. Libya's a great example. Germany's also a great example. They put their economy on a footing where the benefits of it go to the people first, so they have to be destroyed by the people in charge of the nations around it that don't want to do that. So, we've got a practical problem. It may be that you want to get rid of warfare. We've got to wage war on those secret societies that have been waging war on us for thousands of
I
years.
agree.
How do you do that? Does that involve guns? It might do. No, it better not, because they've got loads of them. I don't, so is it the case that the one thing that we need to change is the psychology of everybody in our nation? Yeah. How do we do that? Do we have a mainstream press? Not yet. There's a lot of work involved, and I think most people balk if you think, even give it half an hour's thought, you go, oh, bloody hell, I'd rather just watch TV. That's actually the great curse. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it. The convenient lifestyle is we're always putting off for tomorrow what we should have been got into grips with 100 years ago.
You're right, but
maybe war's just a symptom of that. It's a symptom of deferred pain, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. Well, it's sort of like, the population goes dopey, and they're not sharp anymore, and so there's a lot of things. They're all symptoms of a root cause of not taking responsibility for our own lives, really. And
can I put three things in there?
You put loads
certainly,
There's three
Mr.
solutions. I
Ranrack.
think there's three things that we perhaps need to do better than that. One is love, one is kindness, and one is coming together. Because at the moment, wars, let's be honest, wars are all their world. They're not our world. The average Joe in the street doesn't want wars, and I've said this many times. None of us want wars. It's the elite that want the wars, even though I don't like calling them the elite either. The parasites, they're the ones that want the wars because they're the ones that make the money out of it, and they feed off the death, off the fear, off all the negative stuff that comes as a result of that. No, the obvious way is to go the opposite side and go towards love and kindness, because that starves them of all the energy that they feed off of.
I agree.
That to me is the answer. It's because if you've still got a monetary system, if you've still got the system we've got now, then it's still open to fall into the same. It's
not if you abolish usury. No, if you abolish usury, then you're stepped. I mean, for example, World War II was really about the abolition of usury. The banks could not allow, and World War I and World War II were bankers' wars. That's really basically all they were. But my three solutions would be go for the usury scammers and the usury scam first of all, and as you say, and make sure that people are de-brainwashed, if that's a good term, to not be dependent on government. Shall we say, we have been brainwashed. It's a kind of addiction to government. The second thing. And the third thing is to abide by natural law. That is, do not cause injury, loss, or harm. Now, Steve, I can see you there itching to get in. So, and Nathan's asked me a question there, and I'll deal with that question after Steve, because poor old Steve is sitting itching. So, far away, Steve.
Right, that's an interesting question. So, what was it again?
Underlying root cause. Well, it's
all right.
Hang on a minute. Where is it? Yeah, hang on a minute.
Prior to that, you said something about 3 reasons for the solutions, basically. Right. So this is what I'm going to say, and Paul mentioned that. Paul English mentioned root causes, and Nathan's also put that on there. That's massively important. If we don't understand our enemy and understand their mindset, then we can't, no matter what we do as a solution. Right, the top 3 solutions. All of you,
yeah, okay, so far away.
So, first and foremost, in order to answer that question, you have to understand your enemy. You have to understand their tactics and what they're doing and why. And I'll keep that fairly short. In other words, just like Paul English said, and also what Nathan said, and his follow-up question is, you need to understand root causes. So if you don't understand root causes, all you're going to be doing is banging your head against the wall, trying to scratch the itch of a symptom by rearranging the furniture on a sinking ship. That's what happens if you don't understand your enemy's mindset. I'm not going to go into Sun Tzu because it doesn't have to go that deep. This is basic military strategy. Understand your enemy, understand their mentation. So let's talk about that first. The root causal factor of all these symptoms, and bearing in mind, you've mentioned one of the symptoms, one of the big one symptom, and again, it's a big symptom, but it's still a symptom, is usury. Usury is not a problem. Usury is a symptom. Addressing usury, and I'm not going to go massively into military strategy here, but let's mention something called first, second, and third order effects. The effect of eradicating usury is within a limited period of time, usury would resurface and become a problem again. Get rid of government, let's just say, get rid of current government. The first order effect of that is another government would then rise because we haven't addressed causal factors. Causal factors have to occur in the mind. And I don't want to sound too wacko at this stage, but these are massively important occult principles. All causes, or rather all effects, have to be addressed by the causal factors. So usury is an effect. It can only be addressed by resolving the causal factors. Okay, so here's another one. There's a problem in the world at the minute. It's known as cognitive warfare. Not many people in Britain know this. Not many people have actually heard of this. The UK government, world governments, are applying cognitive warfare effects to nations around the world, including the United Kingdom, including the citizens of the United Kingdom. That is a war crime. That is high treason. That makes the government terrorists, international terrorists, criminals of the highest order who, and bear in mind, treason still carries execution as a sentence. It still carries a death sentence. But what I'm going to mention is, what's the causal factors? Well, we have spiritual problems rooted in consciousness and maintained by ignorance. And I'll just define what that means. Spiritual problems. Many people will say, well, we're under a spiritual war. Yeah, I massively agree. Spiritual war. Why? Because spirituality is a measure of freedom. We've also mentioned rooted in consciousness. Why? Well, cognitive warfare is about affecting consciousness. It's psychology based. Consciousness is a measure of perception. Okay, so in order to address the spiritual problems, which is based on freedom, a measure of freedom, we have to do something to generate more freedom. In order to generate or concentrate on the problem of consciousness, perception, we have to address that through education and information. The last one is ignorance. Ignorance, both these conditions are maintained by ignorance. Why? Because the human race is massively ignorant. I would even say members of the truth movement are massively ignorant. Why? Because they don't look towards causal factors, so therefore they cannot address the problems. And but if I was to, in fact, I'm going to put this in the YouTube chat. These are 3 things that I would do to address world problems, if that works.
Try swearing at it. I usually find it work.
I'll try that again.
Yeah, but now, Paul, you've been a bit quiet recently, and also Anorak. So, what's your follow up on what Steve says? Anorak or Paul, either one of you. What was your feelings?
Yeah, no, Steve's absolutely right. I think it's a matter of, for me, can you chew everything that you bite off? All of these, in other words, knowing the problems is not fixing them, is it? And
I've just put the answers up there, if that helps, on the YouTube comments section.
It's down there. I've actually highlighted.
Oh, right.
Oh,
It's
thank
on
you.
our chat. Sorry, I was looking at the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first one there is selection and maintenance of the aim. That's the first principle of war. And again, I don't expect anybody in the truth movement to know anything about war because they weren't combat soldiers. Any military planning has to go through a 10-phase plan. The first principle of war is selection and maintenance of the aim. That has to address causal factors. If it's not addressing causal factors because you concentrate on effects, then you'll be concentrating on effects forevermore. So it has to address causal factors. That requires, and we've already determined that one of the causal factors is spirituality. It's a spiritual problem, which is a measure of freedom. Well, the way to address freedom is by applying the principles of natural law. Bearing in mind, the international terrorists called government are purposely, one of their reasons for creating and generating war is to negate the effects of the understanding of the human population from understanding natural law. This might sound like, oh, well, actually, I thought we were going for lithium. No, it's to mitigate the effects of the human population understanding natural law. In order to come to that solution, requires precision education based on occult knowledge focused on objective morality. Again, if people don't know these things, well, that's why we're losing, because we don't know how to address the causal factors by using the correct principles. Therefore, education is required. Finally, in order to apply that principle, people have to be in a mentation where they actually want to win. That requires a battle-winning mindset, which requires courage and determination. That's the three answers I would give. And if anybody wants to have an arm wrestle on that, I'm happy to do so. I hope that helps.
Well, wars are fought and lost in the hearts and minds of people. When you think of it, I mean, I like what Gary Garner said. Truthers can be the biggest idiots going.
Well, do you know what? Can I just quickly answer that? You say if wars are fought and lost in the hearts and minds of people. Well, that might be so if it was a real campaign, if that was ever a thing. But because war isn't real, it's all manufactured junk. It's bunk, and it's purposely designed and coordinated to have specific beginnings and specific endings. The middle bit's just a nicety that they get idiots like myself to go and kill other people with. The rest of it, well, let's take Afghanistan as an example. The British government pretended that the reason for Afghanistan was to end the war on terror by eliminating a terror network within a certain country. Well, no, that same terror cell is now the government of that particular country when the forces pulled out. So how did that work? Who won that? Nobody, because it was never an intention. It was junk. It was just to propagate the heroin production industry. This is what we're celebrating tomorrow when we're standing in silence for the fallen comrades. Well, that's what we're celebrating. Yeah, well done, Britain. We managed to secure the heroin production in Afghanistan, and we can do the same in any other country that have had recent campaigns and similar things.
And look at Venezuela. America is saber rattling there, aren't they? And they're after, because it's one of the biggest. I didn't realize this. It's one of the biggest oil producers in the world, Venezuela. I didn't realize that. I thought I thought Saudi Arabia was. It could be.
It could be. They've got a lot of oil.
Yeah. But Nathan said, if you don't know the problem, you will never understand the problem, and you'll never know the solution.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And Nathan says, know the problem, the solution presents itself. That's what you find in design world as well. If you understand the problem, the solution comes to you. That's it.
So
And
can I just mention one point, Eric? And sorry, I know you were just about to say something, but part of
no,
that
please.
part of that problem is the fact that we're not free simply because we do not understand and apply morality. And there is actually a law on freedom,
Agree.
and this is well documented, and it needs to be understood and digested by everybody in the truth movement. The law of freedom. So if we want freedom, we'll have to apply and understand this law. Freedom is directly related to morality. As morality increases, freedom increases. But as morality
Agree.
declines, freedom declines. We are not free because we live in an immoral society. If we want to increase freedom, we need to increase morality. But we can't increase morality if we oblige by international terrorists called government. So if anyone thinks government is essential, well, stay a slave, because that's what you'll be forever, because you can't have freedom when you are engaged in immoral or supporting immoral behavior, which is government. It can't work. We can't have a moral, free society with a government. So if you want chaos and violence, keep voting for government, keep tax funding government, keep supporting government, keep cheering for government, because that's what you're cheering for, your own enslavement forever.
Well, DJ V2 said, not just oil, Venezuela has masses of lithium and other rare earth elements. Now, regarding lithium, I know I might be going off at a tangent, but one of my interests is driving. I love driving. And I think, did you see that YouTube video? Sorry, you sent it to me, didn't you, Paul? That YouTube video about that Kenya car, electric car that could do 400 miles on a battery, and it's not using lithium batteries. If that's true,
No,
that
the company, the company has been shut down. Okay.
Oh, it hasn't, has it?
Oh, yeah. This is the thing.
Now,
you see, this is why we can't solve our problems because of banks. I'm just using it as a shorthand.
Yeah.
Because, to describe the whole thing goes on forever, and then you can read all the banking books if you want to, and I did. But you don't really need all that kind of stuff. But that's the issue. It's the empire of the merchants versus the people. And the empire of the merchants have got hold of democratically elected governments for what they're worth and warp them to their aims. And the cleverest and brightest and most corrupt people end up in these banking circles. And so, restructure, it's true. The problem is that even if you solve it, it might only be for one generation. If the next generation is not trained to be vigilant and be able to spot the symptoms of the decay coming back in. And it seems that that's not possible, because at the moment, if you take a large swathe of the population, I don't know what our population is, you've got people at all sorts of levels. You've got strong, we've got 60, 70 million Britons, whatever that might mean. And within that group, you've got maybe 2% that are exceptionally intelligent. Like, they couldn't really hang around with people at the other end. It's just going to be distressing for everybody. A bit like at school, right? The fact is that happens in life. Everybody's not born with the same intellectual and physical gifts. They're not born with inherently the same level of honesty, and all sorts of other things happen. I can't tell you why, but that is what goes on. How you actually meld those together in a unified effort is probably one of the reasons why government has morphed towards using force and violence and coercion to do it. I'm not justifying it. I'm just observing it as an engineering process that they go into. So there isn't really a we. I know everybody uses this word we, but there isn't one actually, except in the sense, I think there's a we for me. When I use it, I'm talking about that concept of birds of a feather flock together. You've got people of all sorts of different orientations and abilities. I mean, I accept that the truth movement, for example, is not paying attention to things that it should be. But that's the negative. The good is that although we're all ignorant of the thing that we don't know that's about to come up next week and surprise us, yippee, people are less ignorant about this stuff than they were 10 years ago.
I
It's
agree
easy
with
to
you.
forget that because we just beat ourselves up and go, we're all crap all the time. We can't solve anything.
Well,
But it is a 2-step forward, 1-step back process. It probably always will be, I think, because that's the only way you learn. And the other way as well is this. I think you actually only ever learn from the lessons that are painful. I don't think anything else works. If you think about all the stuff that you were taught at school, half of it just goes in one ear and out the other, and you just hope to pass the exam, but you don't retain it because it doesn't mean anything because you didn't self-propel that situation. You got all these individuals, all with their own little goals in life. And how do you hold it all together? It has to be, I think, in part, it doesn't have to be, but I just phrased it that way. There has to be this obedience. You have to get a sense, I believe, that there is a higher power that created this entire space and you're not it. And therefore, the one thing is humility and being humble in the face of this great force, the great hidden power that created all things, including you. And that way you'll stop getting too big for your boots. But we're governed, I think, in part by people that don't pay that any lip service at all. They actually do believe that they are the best. They believe that intellect is the solution to all things, and they've got more of it than anybody else. And they do. They do. They do have more. Unfortunately, they are morally and ethically corrupt because they don't have a conviction in that framework that says, I didn't do all this. You know, even now you look at what they're up to in terms of, well, we can create so you can live forever. I don't think that's a good idea, mate. I think death is really important. I'm quite serious about this. Death is very, very important. It's about the only time most people start to pay attention to what they actually might be is when they're faced with death. I don't mean in a war situation. It's too rapid and it's destructive. But as you go through life, the fact is the older you get, you're likely to have been around it more. If you're kicking around at 70, many of your mates along the way, just through natural events, will no longer be here. So you're going to get that blow. It happens to all of us, or it happens to many of us. Unless you're very unfortunate and sort of shuffle off this mortal coil early on in life. Unfortunately, I know a few people sort of in their 20s that died, car crashes and things like this. And all these things touch everybody. So, you know, I know this is sort of big picture stuff, but it's got to be taken into account. And the sort of the warped versions of religions abuse that as well. That's what they do. They put intermediaries in between you and your process of connecting up with a higher level of thought. And, you know, if you cast back your mind to say how you were at school, there'll be bits that you're probably quite pleased about where you sort of, you know, things were going okay for however you want to define that. And other bits where you were behaving like a twat. And it's just true. You know, the thing is that you behaving like an idiot at school didn't involve killing people. This is what we're kind of against. You know, it doesn't work. It's really, really unpleasant. We don't want it. We don't see any benefit from it. In fact, it's very, very bad for us. And yet we are governed by people that are quite prepared to do that because they've got a certain lack of kindness for the rest of us. And even if we are all kind to one another, and I'm going to suggest that we are in our communications here and what you built up in the chat room and everything, unfortunately, there are people outside of these sorts of communications that are not like that. And they do exist. And one of them's probably just been born right now in the last 5 hours, and he doesn't even know it or she doesn't know it. But when they get to 20 or 30, something bad's going to happen. I don't know how you stop that. There's a stream of this stuff coming into the world. You know, certain spirits and souls get warped. And so we have to find a way of dealing with that as well. So I'm for a reduction.
I agree with you.
I don't think you can remove this completely, not because I don't want it, not because most people don't want it, but because the cunning ones do want it. And they seem to find a way to be able to achieve it. And I think, you know, going back to World War I, that whole thing was organized out of secret groups in London. Outside of the government. This began in the 1850s and 60s and 70s. They coveted power in a different way. They found a way of subverting government departments and pitched us into a war with Germany, which should have, you know, we're right about that. That should never have happened. No, it shouldn't. The Napoleonic Wars are all for banking. There's very similar parallels. Keeps going on and on and on. How we actually stop it, I don't think we can stop it rapidly, but I think at least declaring that we want to have it stopped and communicating to as many people as you can for the duration of your life is a good way to spend your time. And who knows, That's the way I tend to view it. It's worthwhile speaking to people to find out if there's a little light on in there, and say it doesn't really have to be this way, but I really would strongly ask you to consider whether you should be voting for governments at all. Don't participate with these people. That's the first thing. And that's a big wrench for people. I mean, most of the invitations in a sort of subconscious way that we're putting out from a conversation like this are unpleasant for people to hear, i.e. people who are not in this conversation already. It's unpleasant. You're robbing them of their comfort. And it's very powerful, I'm afraid, is comfort. And this is why they go along with evil governments. Oh, no, don't disturb me. Just leave me alone. And all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's that speech, isn't it, from, what is it? That fantastic movie with Peter Finch, in the 70s, where he says, I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm not going to leave. First of all, you've got to get mad. Well,
you're going to get mad.
They do. You've got to get mad.
Network.
And then you've got to contain that madness a bit like a steam engine, I would suggest. Keep the anger inside and use it as a big sort of power valve inside you to power all your actions. But it's expressing things out of anger is generally pretty ineffective. It just blows back in your face, but it's there.
We got a request from Nathan who said, I'd like the panel to each give 3 ways to motivate the people. And Daisy 44 said, Steve, your views on protests. So how are we going to motivate people, and what are your views on protests?
Steve loves protests, don't you, Steve? You're always going on protests. He loves them. He organises most of them, bloody north of England.
Well, first of all, Anrak's been a bit quiet. Anything to motivate
he's on a protest,
people?
Is Anrak. I think getting back off that bloody protest.
I think the biggest way to motivate people is just by talking to people and just having a general chit chat with people and making people aware. And it's amazing how just a conversation is enough to get people understanding the situations we're in. And I find talking to people quite beneficial, to be honest, and showing that not everybody out there is an evil bastard. Some of us actually have
people are generally nice.
Yeah.
There are people that are generally nice. I mean,
people are great. They're really good. I hardly ever come across anybody that's a bugger. I'm serious.
It's only the people in power who think they're in power are the evil fuckers, to be honest. They're the ones that... I shouldn't have said the F word, but I did.
I'm off. I'm going home. I can't stand language like that, Paul.
You mean FOCKERS?
Well, yeah. I just don't want to meet them, that's all. But you know what I mean? They're probably a different species altogether, to be honest. But they relish on sending us all to wars, and it's not just about it's not just being sent to wars and stuff. It's what they do on a day-to-day basis. The rituals like that, the stabbings on board a train, that was all government related. That was all their world. It wasn't some nutcase. They were put there.
This is where people misinterpret what I say. Because, and even though I nail my colours to the mast, people still get it wrong. Now, I believe we have a problem with psychopaths, predatory psychopaths, not all psychopaths, predatory ones, i.e. the ones in government, because you've got to be a pretty evil psychopath to be there. And the way I look on them, whether they are whatever religion they are, whether they're Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, or whatever, these psychopaths are ruling the world because they're so ruthless. And I look on psychopaths on the same way as I look on alligators. Yes, they have a right to live on this earth, but not with us because they are predators. So you put them on an island that's got all the infrastructure there where they can live out their lives, but away from us. And I think once we solve that problem of the psychopaths, then I think we've taken a huge step forward. Again, punishing and things like that doesn't work. Just put them on an island, keep them on that island, and keep them away from us. They're a different species. I mean, Dr. Hare, who's leading authority on psychopaths, has come very close to admitting that they are a different, because their brain is different to ours. They think differently. They are a predator. But the trouble is they can hypnotize humans into doing the most disgusting and vile things. And this is the most frightening thing, this hypnotic effect they've got on people. And I think the governments use this hypnotic effect on the masses all the time.
Well, it's
So
done through various routes, and it's done through
that's
television,
right.
it's done through
Yeah.
music, basically Operation Mockingbird, and through the pop music that people listen to, the
No.
the repetition of the sounds they hear, and it's all control of how you feel, how you think, and we're not allowed to sort of be away from like within our own thoughts a lot of the time. There's I don't know how to explain, but I know pop music is really bad for how we think, how we feel, and some of the words they use. I mean, we know that words are spells which control how we feel, and a lot of the pop music it will have like the chorus, the catchy bit will be "I am" and something negative, and you can sing that for weeks on end. Well, that's mind control in a different form, in various different forms.
Hmm. I agree with you. Actually, there was a fantastic question that came up, but I don't know what it is. And where's Steve gone? Has he gone to the lavvy or something? You know,
I thought there'd be
I
some
don't know
pop
where he-
music or something.
yeah, yeah. But now, Paul, I mean, the thing is, can you think of anything positive that we can do as an individual? As individuals, what can we do to change things? And I think we can come
Well,
up with something.
I think what Paul was saying is what I do. And I think it would be my suggestion. They always say, what is it? Advice is the worst vice of them all. So it's not advice. I can only just tell you what works for me. What works for me, and the reasons why I do it is I like to engage anybody that I meet. Unless they've got an incredibly dead look on their face, I don't waste my time. Just in terms of British civility, I mean it. It sounds awfully, well, that's a bit trite, isn't it? I don't think so. Many people, when I just say hello to people they're actually quite happy to just exchange words, because what you're doing is you acknowledging to them and they're acknowledging back to you that you both exist. And we're living in a world that's kind of making people live in a very artificial digital space. So this sense of the soul of life is being diminished. The sense of it being spontaneously fun and having a laugh for no damn good reason is going away. And this is a very, very bad thing. So I think on a very simple basis, being personable, working on your ability to make people smile. I know it seems trite, but I think it's very good because it's something that you feel good about. And if you're a truth seeker or whatever silly title we want to give ourselves, if you're on this path, and many, many people now are on this path that weren't on it 10 years ago, this is a good thing. No matter how clumsy we may feel that they're blobbing around on it, because people further up the path think that the same of us. Well, they're still not doing that right. And I go, yeah, you're right. I are. But I'm not giving up. So I think it's a matter of sending out some kind of an energy wave that this is important and that it can be done in such a way that it doesn't exhaust you and deplete and ruin your life. It's a very bad advert. Martyrs, a terrible advert for the cause. You know, the lone hero runs out in front of the rest of the army, gets shot. I'll take him on, lads. Gets blown to bits, and everybody goes, bugger that for gamers. It's mad. And you get this sort of, that kind of complex. There's all sorts of, it's very complicated, his life, or there's a lot of aspects to it which are delightful, but it's up to each of us to learn to navigate in that way. So I do think cheery conversations with a few little truth bombs thrown in really work. They work for me because I'm very keen to know where people are at. And I think getting people to be more aware of just key things is not only the best that we can do, but it could do it. You've got a sort of, I think Nathan's just mentioned somewhere in there about mass formation theory and all that kind of stuff. I think the tipping point with sort of group agreements is about 20%. If there's an established sort of an agreement, cultural sort of conditions and conventions within a group, and something new arises, at first it will be opposed and resisted. But if it takes on to a certain size, and it's around about 20%, suddenly everybody it transmits very, very quickly, and people think, oh, this is the new thing, right? People are I've got to be in on the new thing, and this is how we're controlled. Well, the idea is to make that new thing the sorts of ideas and things that we want to see in the world. And I think also it's very easy for us to get involved in a loop of continually criticizing what we don't like. And there's plenty of that. There's an inexhaustible supply of fear porn. It's just off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
And it can become extremely exhausting. So I think another aspect that one may want to think about is what is our story as a people, because We're going to have one, whether you like it or not. You get to choose. You've got to have a story. You've got a narrative. You've got a backstory. Who are you people? Who do you come from? What did they do? What's the good things that they did? We've got a lot in that department. What are the bad things they did? We've got a lot in that department, courtesy of many of our leaders who've cast this nation into all sorts of dramas it shouldn't have been in, with a lot of death and ruin for all sorts of people, not only us. So that's part of it. And to have a clear eye about these things. And then you go, oh, I come from a line of people that are doing this sort of thing. Yeah. And therefore I've got these opportunities, and I've got, we've got things that our forefathers didn't have. We've got this library of information. The big challenge is, can we use it effectively? Well, I think many people here do, right? Everybody seems to think the internet was for buying stuff. A lot of people, but they were the sort of people that never thought or went to libraries anyway in the first place. But if you're an inquirer, if you're armed with question marks in your soul, that's about the best guide you can get, because it's guidance that we're looking for all the time. We're always looking for guidance, and hopefully the wisdom to recognize when we're receiving good guidance and to follow through on it, and to learn from our mistakes, which will be many and which are a gift, as long as you're conscious and recognize it as a mistake at the time and go, I can put that right now. I'm not going to do it again. That kind of stuff.
I think people need an injection of, I mean this in a different sense, of happiness. We need a lot of happiness, because you look at, for example, you look at the 60s, happy music, people looked happy. Even 70s, people were happy. Do you look at the music? I was talking about this last night to our guests, and they agreed that music now is crap, absolute crap. Just go back even a short distance, and things were uplifting. I mean, at times of war, they did have it uplifting music. I mean, during World War II, they had they had Benny Goodman, but they had Glenn Miller and people like that, which was the music of the time. And look at 70s, very progressive rock. Now, I happen to like progressive rock, Pink Floyd and Genesis and things like that. It's very nice. We don't get that now. It's just sort of drab, bland, and it's deliberate. It's the war on our minds. And I think we've got to liven things up. And as I've often said, use our best weapon we've got, humour. Take the piss out of them. Take the piss out of the ruling government. That's how we're going to bring them down. Just keep laughing at them. Can you imagine Keir Starmer giving a speech and everybody's going and killing themselves laughing? Bet your mummy's proud of you. Take the mick. They're sick. This is what we've got to do. Any views on that? No?
Yeah, I've got one. It didn't work in China or Russia or Germany.
No, you got a good point there. Yeah.
Yeah, have you heard Chinese music, Steve? Come on.
It's better than mine.
No.
Well, let's face
it's not
it.
true.
And what about Japan? I mean, to speak Japanese, that's right. You've got to suffer from chilblains and have constipation. It's all, I can't speak Japanese.
I can speak Japanese. Itama. That's Japanese. Yeah.
What's that stand for?
That means that came from a Japanese guy that I played baseball with in London. And it means throw strikes, right?
Really?
Throw strikes. Because we had this Japanese pitcher and a Japanese catcher, and the Japs play a lot of baseball like we play cricket. Well, I never played cricket. I can't stand it. It's just so boring. I used to fall asleep. And I'm a Yorkshireman as well, which of course is sacrilege, what I've just said, but it was never my game. And they just spoke Japanese all the time. Bloody little bastards. They never spoke English.
Little nips,
word they were saying. But they were bloody good at baseball. So,
Did they say that after they'd won or lost? Because if they said that after they'd lost, they might be swearing at you.
Well, they might be. Maybe they just made it all up. Maybe they were just insulting me in that vicious Japanese language. No, they were nice guys. They were good guys. They were fine, and all that kind of stuff.
They used to bow a lot because they always bow.
I think much of it's to do with our story. Eric, what you were saying there about being happy and all these things, right? Yeah. There's kind of a framework story that all cultures have. Culture comes out of race. Just does. Right, comes out of ethnicity, comes out of this concentration in a space. So we're the same race as the Germans, but we've got a slightly different culture, right? We admire them and they admire us, which is why we should never have had a war with them of anybody, to be quite honest. But it's why the bad guys wanted that. But I'm only picking them as one thing. We've got things in common with the French. Of course, there's a lot of warfare between the French and us and all that kind of stuff. And Hastings still sits badly, I suppose. But there are things that we share. And the culture is very important. It's your story whilst you've got your innings here. You go, I don't want it to be like this. Well, tough. It's like this when you got here. It's that thing. It's like this when I got here. I think I can improve it. I mentioned Buckminster Fuller earlier. There's a wonderful bit at the end of the book. He gets I was going to read it, but it's probably too long. It's a couple of pages, too long to read out. But he gets a letter from a young lad who's about 14, writes to him he said, I really like your work and everything, and I like engineering because he was an engineer and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking, what should I do? And Fuller's advice to him, or his suggestion, is this. He said, as you go through life, you will see things that need to be done that no one else will see. This is true of all of us, right? You're going to see something, a situation, no one else is clocking it. When you're looking around and going, can't anybody else see that? And there'll be bits that you're conscious of and that I'm completely oblivious to. And what he says is, when you see that thing, the thing that needs to be done that nobody else sees needs to be done, do that. That's what you do. That's how you, as a little mini contributor, add to the whole. And it only works, I would suggest, within a homogenized culture. That's how it works. We're talking here and doing all sorts of little things. We've got all little shorthand code. That's why we're laughing at certain things. And we know when we're being sarcastic and all that kind of stuff. You bring someone in out of this, they won't get it. They might even get insulted by it. And then we've got it wears us down. So there's a kind of sophistication, a subtlety that builds up in concentrated groups and tribes, which is the true natural diversity of life. I think that's a wonderful thing. What we're facing here is an organized system on the earth that's seeking to turn everybody into a robot, literally. They want it to fit into their digital system of control. That's kind of what's different this time around, because unfortunately they've got the means, it would appear, to go a long way with that. I don't think they're going to be successful, but it's a big, big battle that we're involved with. And it's very difficult for people because they don't recognize it as a battle, because they think that means blokes running around blowing each other's heads off on a field. It doesn't mean that this time around. There's something else taking place. And many people there, most people there, I guess, are fully aware of that. But the conversation's moving on. And I think it's through communication and hearing other people talk. It's why I scour Twitter more than anywhere else at the moment, simply because there has been a sea change since Musk took it over. Don't trust Musk. That's not what I'm saying. But there are certain things happening, and the bad guys are not fully in control. I think that's always worth bearing in mind. They're not. They're absolutely not. They've got internal little fights taking place between this group and that group, and we want to be in charge. The things that are cursing the earth as a whole, they deal with that in their little idiot power structures all the time. So there's always light to be shone on things, and we must keep amplifying it wherever we see it. And I think when we see a problem or an issue, it's up to us to go, I really do need, because you feel bad when you don't. You know what you mean? Yeah. When you don't, you go, shit, I should have done that. And that's great. Daisy, you should feel bad, slightly bad.
Daisy44, sorry to cut across you there. Steve, why do so many people follow people who have large followers, idols? Well, this is what happens in groups like truth groups and that. They become cults because what happens, a narcissist gets to rule the cult, and everybody, like the wolf pack, steps into line because they're frightened of stepping out of line. So they will worship the cult leader. And this is the big problem. We've got this wolf pack thing, mentality, So,
you ever heard of a guy called Krishnamurti? Does that ring a bell? You ever heard of him? J. Krishnamurti? He's a really interesting case. It illustrates the point that you're saying. He was picked out by the Theosophical Society as the New World teacher. They had all this thing going on in the early 1900s, right? At the age of 6 or 7, he showed certain qualities, spiritual sensitivities, high level of intelligence, articulation. They thought, this kid's amazing, right? So he was kind of groomed for this role. And when he got to actually assuming it, he rejected it much to the chagrin, and that's an understatement, of these people that had been basically cultivating him to take over. I suppose it's a bit like when they cultivate a young lad to become the Dalai Lama, right? Which they do. The next Dalai Lama got hijacked, by the way. He got spirited away by the Chinese. They hadn't seen him for 30 years. He was earmarked when he was 8. And he rejected it for the very reasons that you're saying. And that when you get these groups together, the early days are fantastic because it's new, it's exciting, you're meeting new people, you're staying guarded because you don't know what you've got in the room, etc., etc. Then an agreement builds up. Then there are people who get slightly frustrated that it's not going exactly the way that they want to go, and all this, that, and the other. And then you get it breaking up. I'm not aware really of many organizations that haven't broken up, apart from the hellish ones, because the punishment for leaving them usually is death, isn't it? They kill you.
Yes, well, this is
if you leave and
interesting.
take the secrets of what they're doing, you get killed. So nobody leaves.
Well, Caroline Murphy has come up with a cracker here. She said, long ago, the Chinese king sent his men out to live amongst the community and find out what they thought of the king. If they said anything bad about him, they were rounded up and killed. I think, and she goes on to say, social media is used to do that too. I think you've got a good point there. Yes.
Oh, if that's
And this
the
is
case,
what allows us to open the. Yes.
Oh, finish your point, Eric.
Well, I actually think that this is why they're removing the taking things down, because I think that social media is being used as a listening post to gauge who the frightening people, the dangerous people are.
If that's the case, which I think that's highly credible, bearing in mind the internet is owned by the US Department of Defense. That's why it's free, folks, because the military own it, so they can listen into everything that you're doing. But this is great because I've got a really serious message here. A couple of weeks back, or last time, or fairly recently, I invited the entire UK army to fisticuffs. All 80,000, and I said I'd either take them all at once or individuals. I really don't care. I take regiments, the whole companies, battalions. I don't mind. Or it's 80,000 to 1. So far, one of them has taken me up on the offer. That makes me the toughest former soldier in the British Army. Which I wasn't even good at boxing. I always came second. But anyway. Apart from that, I'm now going to use social media as a platform for a special announcement to the entire UK police force. So this is part of my methodology on how to cheer up the nation and send out those positive vibes. So I'm offering the entire UK police force to a fight. Boxing, it's, let's make it legitimate. It's going to be like boxing, all 100,000. I'll not box the women. No, sorry, women. No women. I'll not box the women, but all the men in the UK police, I'll offer to a fight. Boxing. How about that?
Well, Daisy's putting a question for you, Steve, and I'd like to add a little bit onto this as well. Steve, will you go out in your beret and show your medals for Remembrance Day or Remembrance? If not, why? Now, before we go into that, I've never bought a poppy. And my father never had a poppy. He was in World War II, the full 6 years of hell. And there were reasons. And if you want to know the reason, just look at my film, The War Justification Industry. That's it.
Good for you, mate. I mean, that's a great point. I don't buy poppies. I don't celebrate mass murder satanic rituals. I honor the dead and the fallen by speaking the truth. It's as simple as that. The truth is all war is bunk, and it's all perpetrated by crazy psychopaths to favour themselves at our expense. And until we start talking about this as a society and realising that we've been massively duped for hundreds, if not thousands of years by psychopaths who consider themselves to be our rulers, then we will never honour the fallen. No, I'll tell you why I'm not wearing my beret or my medals is because do you know what? I would chuck them in the bin, but they're in a box. I'll never wear them.
Absolute good on you, mate.
Punk. All
Good
they
on
are
you.
to me, medals, and I'm not disrespecting any of my comrades at all. I mean, obviously they'd all want to punch my lights in if they heard me talking like this, which I don't care. I've got no disrespect for anybody I've worked with. They need to know that what we've had to put up with is based on psychopathy and brainwashing. That's what we need to come to terms with. The whole nation's been under brainwashing and psychopathy by absolute maniacs who have been trying to profit at our expense.
Well,
So,
my father told me, I've still got them, he never wore his medals, and they have quite an impressive array that he's got. And he said, I want you to keep them in the box and show people what this country thought of us. He said, and this is exactly how I received them, tarnished, and all the medal ribbons are frayed. He said, and that's what we thought of us. And he was disgusted in the way the medals were sent, and he was disgusted in the way he was treated after the war. He was a disabled veteran, and they treated him worse than they treat criminals. They treated not only him, but all the veterans worse than they treat criminals. Story on its own. It is quite something. And sorry, Paul, I did cut across you there, mate. So please carry on with what you're going to.
What I was going to say was, doesn't the poppy represent the blood spilt by all the victims of these psychopaths, basically?
That's what it is. We need to stop euphemizing what war is and again what these the ceremony, remembrance ceremony. Even though there'll be probably millions of people who think I'm a complete imbecile for mentioning this or highly disrespectful, which I'm not. Like I say, I'm respecting all the fallen and forgotten people from military campaigns by educating the public as to what war stands for. War is satanic ritual. That's why the poppy is blood red. That's why on the 11th, i.e. 33, that one of the highest numbers in all occult study, is used to mark an occasion of mass ritual sacrifice. That's why many of the dates that they use for warfare, whether it's the start or end of battles or the start or end of campaigns, is deliberately used to start or finish on particular dates in the satanic calendar. And I've got a long list. I've done it before on your shows. If people come to presentations, I offer presentations which are very, very poorly attended. Again, if it's just because of me as a personality, well, I'm not offended by that. But what is a shame is I've got knowledge to give to people that can help them understand the world a little bit better in a more truthful and honest fashion. If people don't want to learn these things, well, guess what? It's your freedom at stake. It's as simple as that, because I've tried to mention what governments stand for, which I have done for many years, many years, prior to the Horse Manure that came out in 2020. And people still are voting, supporting imbeciles like Nigel Farage, paying tribute. People are still engaged in this system of mass mind control for international terrorists and don't seem to be wanting to change. And I can understand the sleepy population doing this, but the people who are truthers need to start really starting to embellish and understand the truth and live by it.
I think the challenge for everyone, no matter what point you think you are on the learning path, is you have to be, this is my take anyway, you have to be aware that your life from this point on is going to be one with ever increasing levels of discomfort. And it's so off-putting to people. People don't want to feel uncomfortable. But the truths that need to be told, by their very definition, are the ones that have been suppressed, obscured, hidden, etc., for the very reason that they are the ones that cause discomfort. So if you are a real truth teller, I could say, well, that car there is green, and we could all agree. So I just told the truth, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about those truths that have been effectively, intentionally edited out of the public view. And it's your job, our job, to start putting some light back onto these things to get the cockroaches to scuttle out of it. So I just wanted to say that. The other thing about the poppy is I do understand the thing about it being blood red, but there is an actual causative story behind it which differs to that, which you can dismiss, which is that the reason they picked the poppy is that it was the only thing that would grow on the battlefield. It was the only little flower that was left growing after all this devastation in World War One. And there's a poem, not that I'm going to read it, but you will have heard of it, called In Flanders Field, written by a Canadian guy who observed this. And that's where the first mention of the poppy occurs in this poem, because everything else is mud, but this little poppy thing was growing all over the place. Now, that might be a convenient story as well. Yeah, because it is red. And they may get, bolt a story on that they will accept to the front end. I think you can view all these things in certain different ways. That there is a satanic agenda and that these are blood rituals, I don't doubt. Absolutely. The reason why I think Remembrance Day, though, is important is that when I'm looking at it, I'm not looking at it from the point of view of this was a great and glorious thing or a terrible thing. I'm just thinking about all the people that were tricked and deceived, unfortunately, who did it, many of them with good intentions, doing what they thought was best. And, this thing about they gave their lives. I hate that phrase. No, they didn't. They were killed. Let's get it right. They were killed serving something they didn't fully understand because they thought it was their duty. Or they were, even you look at the whole history.
No, sorry,
Yeah,
they were
forced into it.
conscripted. They didn't have a choice.
And prior to that, you had impressment. People just picked up in the 1700s, right? You're in the Navy now. Am I? Yep.
Well,
just take the king's coin. All that kind of crap.
Right.
My dad, I've mentioned before as well, when that thing used to come on at the cenotaph, because have they just held it this Sunday or is it next Sunday? I don't know. They do it on a Sunday, the
Last
nearest
Sunday.
one. So, okay. So I don't watch that stuff. But when it used to come on, my dad would stand and watch it and then he'd blow a big raspberry because he was in the Navy during World War II and he just went, for bloody what? I always remember him saying that. For bloody what? And that sentiment's come out recently. I don't know if you've seen it with this interview on TV with this guy who's 100. It's extreme. In fact, I've got the clip and we'll play it tomorrow, Eric, in the show. It's very brief. He's just been on some breakfast time TV. And of course, the hosts, one of them's an Indian guy who's literally clueless and just comes out with this absolute, completely disconnected crap. The thing is, right or wrong, people did do what they thought was the right thing. And in retrospect, we're always right. We can always look back on a previous generation and go, what a bunch of arseholes. Believe you me, people in 50 years' time will be looking back on us and going, why didn't they see that? There's something right now under our noses that we're not doing. I can tell you that we want to sort of latch onto. Anyway, ifs, buts, and maybes. It's tricky, isn't it? But it's not just the soldiers. I mean, the reason why the last century is so bad is that civilians suddenly became a genuine, legitimate target for destruction on a colossal scale. And that's one of the appalling things of the mechanized warfare of the last century, particularly, is that there was no regard for civilian life at all. It's dishonorable. It moved away. If you accept that there's chivalry in battle, and then when you've defeated the enemy, they would graciously accept their surrender, which did used to happen. No matter what we might think it did, it stopped happening there. It just became, and it's getting men down to the behavior of beasts, which of course I guess is a key part of their agenda as well.
Mm-hmm.
That photo that I chose it with quite a bit of thought for tomorrow's show, which is called Why, shows a young boy who's absolutely terrified. And he's wet himself. He's so terrified in the German army. And there's someone, you don't know whether he's shouting at him, pacifying him. You don't know. But what a photograph someone's taken. And that just about sums it up. A poor kid that's pushed into that battlefield. I mean, my father was conscripted at the age of 20, and they actually brought the conscript age down after the war to 17. You could join the army at 17. And when I was a kid, my dad had a friend who he worked with. His name was Sandy Lane. Well, that's the nickname they gave him. He was in the Korean War, and he was an orphan. and the orphanage. He was actually on the battlefront at 16 years of age. 16. And what had happened in those days, and I'm talking about the 1950s, which is not that long ago, they went straight out of the orphanage, straight into the army. And he said the Americans used to call them the Boys Brigade because they were just kids. He said their uniforms were hanging off of them because they were just kids. And he was actually buried alive amongst a load of bodies, and he was found to be still alive. And they pulled him out. And the man, I never forget, his hands were shaking all the time. He's in a terrible state. He really was. And but Aunt Sally said, "Well, I was at a remembrance ceremony yesterday outside yesterday with my church. I said out loud, 'What did they die for?' People looked at me and nodded in agreement. Good for you, Aunt Sally. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's terrific, you know."
People know
But
that this is a positive. They really do know. There's huge numbers of people who are only speaking a little bit, but this is phenomenally good. They are. You can see it in people's comments. The little things that I hear that people are saying, everybody's looking at one another, shaking their head. It's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal that. It means that something's penetrated through the fog. And they may not know all the details. And really, if they have to, then we're never going to do this because there's too many details for it to be picked up in one lifetime to know it all.
Well, that's right.
Guidance is going to be required. There's going to have to be sort of like temporary leadership. There just is. There are going to be people that know more than other people in a crowd, and it's their duty to speak, not to dominate it or say, I'm in charge and you like me as boss, all that. You've got to watch out for those personality types. But there have to be contributive communicators who say, look, I really want to inform you about something that I don't think you know about, to give you something food for thought. If you've got a person in front of you that is interested in thinking, which is not as many people as we would like. It's hard work thinking. It's not easy, particularly when they've got in the habit of just obeying orders ever since they left school. That's the problem.
I promised my father on his deathbed that I would carry on his, I suppose, his one-man campaign to bring out the truth. And I said, I'll carry on to do that. And if anybody's interested in my father's book, it took him 10 years to write. It's a huge book. It's about that thick. You can get it on Amazon. And there's a link below here where you can actually get his book on Amazon. If anyone wants and has big groups, this is Daisy 44, for Steve and Nathan to do presentation, reach out. Happy to travel to do the great work. That's nice for Daisy, isn't it? It's Daisy 44. And
thanks, Daisy. Oh, do you know what? By the way, the great work, she's mentioned the great work. The great work is the alchemical great work. So, and again, I'd have to offer some information to offer understanding on what that is. That is essentially what the answer is to the current level of society's ills, is the alchemical great work. But I'm just going to mention a number because if Paul's still in the chat somewhere or still listening, Paul knows all about numerology and he'll be well aware of the number 322, which equates to a date, the satanic season of sacrifice, March the 22nd. So I'm just going to mention that very briefly because there's many things I can mention here. On March the 22nd, the Iraq War Shock and Awe campaign. On March the 22nd, the US invasion of Libya. March the 22nd, the Westminster Bridge attack. March the 22nd, the Belgian bomb. March the 22nd, the announcement of lockdown 1. Why? Because it's the satanic season of sacrifice, March the 22nd, one of the most important dates in the satanic calendar. But not only that, 322, what does that equate to? Well, alchemy, the alchemical great work, is the transformation of base metals from lead to gold. That's the allegory that talks about the transformation from base consciousness, i.e. ignorance, to enlightenment. And that, if you were to take that onto the periodic table, lead is lead to gold. I think it's there's two substances in between that, and I must admit I can't remember off the top of my head. I think one of them's thallium, and I think the other one's mercury. From lead to gold in the periodic table, from I think it's 79 to 82. Add those numbers together, those 4 elements together, 322. That's what 322 means. And this is the answer. We want to do better in society. Well, more people have to become enlightened, because the way to do that is by understanding objective morality and natural law. That's what enlightenment means, and acting by that principle. That's how to establish freedom in society. Hope that helps.
Well, Nathan has done an advert here, and he's paid me a free Fock Bobs for this. No, I'm only joking. 17th of December, Happy Saturnalia seminar with Steve, myself, and Mark Devlin. Wallace Terrace, Seaton Delaval. Where the bleeding hell's that, mate?
That's in the northeast. I might go.
Well, yeah, that's northeast. Anywhere near Tyneside, or is it?
Yeah, that's Tyneside, Tynemere, northeast. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Caroline Murphy says, even in the graveyards with all the soldiers' names, a plaque say they sacrificed their lives, and something else. And I'm sorry if I keep on about my father, but anything to do with that, with war and that, I keep on about. His call-up papers said he could never get over this Territorial Army, and Territorial Army is a volunteer army, and he didn't volunteer, and he was fuming. And they did that so that future historians would look at it and think, "Oh, they're all volunteers." They weren't. It actually says Territorial Army on it, so
The thing is, when they put "they sacrificed their lives," that's the "they" should be in speech marks, because that actually relates to the people who sent them there in the first place.
Yes.
None of us would do that now, would we? And given the choice, none of us would do it, would we? Because we know that.
Well, maybe, Paul, the word "they" in the language of the other side is referring to themselves. They, the group of people that organised this war, sacrificed their lives. That's how they would read it. Yeah. It's a bit like when they stand up and go, "we," and everybody in the crowd thinks he means the entire country. No, it means the little cadre of turds that are in charge. And it's interesting what you're saying about alchemy, Paul, as well, because I think, like all these things, there's a right hand and a left hand path. It's useful, I think, for people to be aware of the difference between magic and sorcery. They're different.
Yeah.
Magic can be neutral or used for beneficial means. It's a broad term that implies a positive in many ways. We even use it in a positive. That's magic. We use that it's a word certainly worth exploring. But sorcery is specifically the use of magical powers to bring about ruin and for evil intents and purposes. And what's really interesting is that in Scripture, it talks about sorcerers. And the original word for that, I think, in the Greek is pharmakia. Pharmacy.
Yeah.
The pharmaceuticals industry. They are sorcerers, right? It's all there. You've just got to sort of nail these words down.
Wow.
So that's what we are up against, a bunch of sorcerers. Yep.
This is why we need to know and learn the occult, because, like I said earlier, if we don't understand our enemy, we will be powerless to fight back against them. So you're exactly right, Paul. We are up against sorcerers, black magicians, people who understand the occult at a dark level and use it to exploit others. And that when I say war is sacrifice, it's blood ritual sacrifice, that's because it's dark occult ritual thing. And I mean, I can explain that in a lot more depth. I don't think now's the time and the place to do so, because that understanding takes quite a lot of time and effort to get to that conclusion. But I can tell you the conclusions of it. To reach it takes time and effort, which we can only gain if we, attend presentations by people trying to teach the dark occult to others. So a lot of people probably think, oh, Steve's a proper he's blackpilling everybody. I'd probably come across quite, I don't know, negative or a doomer or a blackpiller. Well, probably, but this is who our enemy are, and if we don't embrace that and then try to do something to fight back against it, well, we're going to get stuffed. We're going to lose because we're up against people who have got far more superior knowledge, and knowledge is power. We need to be at least equal, if not better than them, in our understanding.
That's right.
If you think about on that line, if you think about the ancient mystery schools, as they are referred to in Greece and Egypt and elsewhere, they had initiates and all this kind of stuff. These are fields of study that are in occult, esoteric study fields. And if you mention that to the layman immediately thinks, because of the conditioning, this is a bad thing, right? You're talking about evil things. No, we're not. You've got, I think, down this journey, you've got to be able to finesse things all the time. Like somebody who went down the path of the sorcerers would be Aleister Crowley, who everybody's heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So he's applying these things for power over others. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that Barbara Bush was actually his daughter, by the way, the woman that married the senior George Bush.
Yeah, I've heard
facially,
that,
facially they look very, very similar. Of course, Crowley died in Hastings, which is just down the road from here, eaten up by syphilis. Good riddance to him. Brilliant guy, apparently, in his younger days. Phenomenal mountaineer, highly intelligent, as they are. Linguistically very skilled, could speak 6 languages or something like this. Yeah. And then they go down a certain path and it's bad. And then once they start going down that path, it's very difficult to come back for it. Not that I'm worried either way. But one of the things they used to do in those schools is that they don't allow all the information to go out. Now, that makes, I suppose, at first level, you start to bridle. You go, who are you to hang on to all this information? But it's actually, depending on the orientation of the school, for very good reasons, along the lines of you don't give whiskey and a machine gun to a 14-year-old in a shopping centre. You don't do that. That's really dumb. And for the same reasons, what they were saying was, look, some of these pieces of knowledge are too much for the level that the crowd is at right now. You can say, well, I agree or I don't agree with that. That's wrong, what you did. But if they know more, they get to make that decision before you're even aware of it, because they are. And I think, like I was saying earlier, there are people in your class at school, in your year, up and down the, if you took every 15-year-old, there's a small percentage of them that are going to be exceptionally gifted intellectually in some way, or have certain sensitivities or certain abilities above and beyond the average. It just happens all the time. I think what we're hoping for, in a good system, those high intelligences would be the high tide watermark of our people in that generation, and are the natural ones to provide the wise, kingly, philosophical guidance that is required. I think it is required. I'm not talking about forming a government. It's very difficult, because you've got such a gap in the understanding range of people. It's huge. It's like I've said it before, you don't take 5-year-olds in maths and start teaching them calculus. Maybe 1 in a million kids at 5, one of these little geniuses goes, oh, this is boring, I've got all that. But he's exceptional, right? And the exception proves the rule, it seems to me. But you've got to take them into account. These are very gifted individuals that come up with amazing stuff. And when it's in line with the intent, with an ethical and moral framework, it's a great gift and a blessing to all of us, right? Shakespeare's one. Beethoven's another. Mozart's another one, right? There's loads of them. You can probably think of them. These people made a huge, huge contribution into the culture, into the way that people thought about things, in a way that was like a light jump. And you keep getting these, and it's always happened. So they're like gifts from the good side of the game, but there's definitely a bad side of the game. There definitely is darkness. We do need to understand it to be able to cope with it better, deal with it, make more wise decisions as we go through life to avoid it, because you can't take it on. You can't deal with a maniac that wants to kill you because you're not a killer. You don't want to do that. So the best thing to do is to run away, literally, and create your own space somewhere else. The Earth's big enough, no matter whether it's flat, round, or dodecahedron. I don't give a monkeys. And we've all got that opportunity. And I think the universe provides the opportunities of good-hearted people to do just that. It's always done that. There's always going to be help for those that ask for it.
And talking about help,
yeah.
That's right. Please carry on, Paul. I'll cut in on you very rudely. Sorry.
No, I was just sort
Can
of.
I add?
I was just all I was going to say was this sort of nails in my view anyway, into this an aspect of yourself that is a servant of that high force that created the whole thing. There's something that created everything. There's a thing. I know there are atheists who say no, and you've got all these physicists. It's just
An
all
energy.
matter. Yeah. But if you start studying the occult and the alchemical field, you will, I think, if you stick with it, you will be disabused of that notion in due course, depending on where your levels are. I'm not trying to say I'm right and you're wrong or anything like that, but it just, there is a supernatural in our lives. We don't talk about it too much, but
I
it's
think you're
there.
right.
There are supernatural events that have and do take place. And people say, well, I've never seen one. We go, well, no, but I never met Mozart. I know that there are great composers, but I've never known one
Well-
personally in my life, but I know they exist. So,
Mind you,
Yeah.
if you see one of my very old things, videos, it was with Robert Newman, the late Robert Newman. He was a music sort of expert, and he believed we did a show called The Mozart Myth, which he believed
Yes.
that Mozart was typed up, and he had he'd gone through all the documents and everything. Very interesting. But you sorry, he's going to say, Steve, he's going to mention something.
To add, well, to kind of add to Paul's points, or some of them, there is things that we can do which isn't necessarily, I don't want to say rocket science, but not necessarily difficult. If we understand morality, which fundamentally we all do, but we forget it simply because it gets brainwashed and educated out of us. But we are born with an understanding of objective right and wrong, and just to clarify what I mentioned earlier, a right is any action that does no harm to any other living being. So that, and what is a wrong then? A wrong is any action that does cause harm to any other living being. That is what right and wrong is. That's all we need to know. And as a young child understands this. A young child, for example, will know instinctively that hitting somebody in the face with a stick is wrong. And I'm not saying they'll not do that because they're obviously young and immature, but they know that it's wrong. We as adults definitely know that this is wrong. However, what happens is this line gets blurred by government, and we enter into a condition known as moral relativism, where we, even as intelligent adults, we believe that the government or some form of authority have the right to preach to us what the distinction between right and wrong is. And I've already mentioned in quite a lot of detail why government is immorally wrong in all levels. Why? Because they employ violence and duress in every act of legislation that they procure. Every single piece of legislation that the government come out with is an act of wrongdoing. That means the police are wrongdoers. No matter how well their intentions are with many things, they are fundamentally wrongdoers because they have to employ violence in order to propagate their business. Same with the military. The military, even though I was a member of the military, I'm the first person to say the military in all its aspects are immorally wrong. Why? Because they employ violence, deadly violence, in order to procure their effects. That means every notion of authority is wrong. That means society is fundamentally wrong. All aspects of society are wrong when we employ and believe in the concept of authority. And I'm just going to pick upon that with one little thing. We know what right and wrong is. A right is any action that causes no harm to any other being. On top of that, all men were created, and all men and women, all men were created equal. Okay, this is a very well-known philosophical concept. If all men were created equal, how is it the most dismal ones are telling everybody else how to live their lives? But not only that, if the government have the right to demand anything of us, which, let's face it, that's what they do. The government or demanding that we get stabbed in the arm with one of these, wear a thing over our faces, to go into self-isolation in our own homes for a prison period of 666 days. But if the government have got the right to demand things of us, does that make us their rightful property? Bearing in mind all men were created equal. And if we're not, if they are, or we are not their rightful property, why are we accepting their demands? We must be clinically, society must be clinically insane if we can't understand these simple concepts. But if we can't walk away from this relationship, this narcissistic abuse of wrongdoing, without fear of punishment, I might add, well, then we must be mind-controlled slaves. There's no other logical explanation for government. Therefore, government should cease to exist, and until society become educated on accepting this in here, the causal level, nothing's going to change at the effects level. Natural law is cause and effect.
You're right.
We can't change effects until we fix the cause, which is a diseased mind, because we don't understand morality.
And something that might irritate you, Steve, and it used to really irritate my dad, is he said you go into a bookshop and you find books about World War II by people that were never there and just looked through the official records. And you probably had seen books about the army and that written by people who have never been in the army, haven't got the foggiest idea what they're talking about. You know, different places you've been to where you've had to do some fighting. You know, you've probably seen books about it where people are just looking through official records. But I'd like to thank Mark Anthony. Thanks, mate. He's read my dad's book, and it's My World War II, True Story by David J. Powis. And it's a highly recommended book. Thanks a million, mate. It's much appreciated. It's much, and again, details below here. No, not in my crutch. In the details below
on YouTube,
where you can get it. And that's right, on YouTube. And it says, "Answer." He said, "I do wonder if those conscripted veterans had known their way around their true rights, they'd have stood their ground and told the government to fork off." Actually, when you look at the atmosphere of those days, you couldn't really get out of it because it was like an emotional blackmail.
Yeah,
it was pretty full on because you had the fear porn all the time. You know, the German army been marching down Whitehall and all this. The fact of the matter is, the German army could not have got to Britain because we'd have had a huge navy, and they had to have got across the Channel, and it would have been a bloodbath. And Hitler knew it. And Operation Sea Lion was, they all knew it was just a bluff because they didn't have an operation. I mean, when you look at what went into D-Day, now how huge that was, the German army could have never have matched it. They just didn't have to. They just did not have the ability to do it, and that's it.
Well, of course, the main problem, of course, is that they never wanted war with us. But that's the other story, isn't it? So,
well, we can go into that tomorrow. Actually, we've drifted into what we're going to say tomorrow.
Well, not necessarily. I was thinking also. I mean, yeah, whatever. But I was thinking, just going back to the condition that people were in during prior to World War I, early 1900s. It's not that long ago, actually, although life was very, very different, much harder than it is right now, much harder. No credit cards, no overdrafts, none of that. Hard work. Most people involved in manual labor of one kind or another, or working in factories, whatever they were doing, or steel industries, coal, that kind of thing. A lot of farming work, very, shipbuilding, basic stuff. Not too much middle management running the country. Most of it was in Whitehall, newspapers, things like that. But you're at the tail end of 200 years of abuse in the nation from the 1700s, ever since, the loss of the commons, the moving of the peasants off that into cities, into, all the clothing factories, all the mills, all this kind of stuff, down the pit. People had been under the physical cosh by government in the name of the economy, which they don't benefit from. They're just told that they have. They're told that they have because it's less worse than it was last year. Yeah, but it's still shit, mate. It's still not right. It's still not got human dignity to it. Now, one thing that we have had, in spite of all the troubles that we've had, is that since 1945, we've had a much more cushy life in comparison to our forefathers. Of that, there's no doubt. In spite of the fact that the food's ropey now and that we're living in this psychological bewildering space for so many people, and that people's attention span has been fully hijacked in some cases, or hijacked majorly away from things, and that people don't contemplate or think things through in a slow pace, something that they could do in the past. Also, another thing that we've lost from the past, I guess, is kind of what you would say is the soul of the nation. Some aspect of care between families, which had to take place simply because there weren't credit cards. You couldn't go to the bank. You couldn't relieve. You had to rely on your neighbours to give you sugar. That old thing, popping round for tea from Mrs. Smith and all that kind of stuff. Wonderful in a way, but so there was a lot of binding together in adversity, which there was, and no doubt, I remember people. What's that thing in World War I? Many of them were glad to sign up because they got fed.
Correct.
That's
And
how
did you
bad it
know
was
that-
in 1913.
Yeah,
They went,
well-
I'm going to the army to fight the war because they're going to feed me 3 meals a day. It was one of the major recruiting benefits, right? Now,
Yeah.
I wasn't alive at
And
the
the
time,
Second
but I
World-
guess
and the
I
Second
probably
World
would
War
have
as
succumbed
well.
to that too if I was bloody starving. It's a war. I go, yeah, but if I don't eat, I'm going to be dead anyway. So that's it. It's like rock and a hard place. And governments are very good at creating rocks and hard places all
Well,
the time.
did you know?
It's not that.
When I was promoting my dad's book, I went on to some Irish stations, and I was on a Irish radio phone-in station. I was asked on as a guest, and they said that there was, during World War II, British Army recruiting offices in Southern Ireland, and the people were so bloody hungry that they were signing up to go into the British Army so they could get fed. That's exactly what you've said. And I found this out from this Irish radio station. So I was quite amazed. And Aunt Sally said, oh, by the way, thank you very much, Caroline, who said something absolutely fantastic earlier. Where was it now? Here it is. We all watch many channels, but your channel outsmarts them all. Thank you so much. That's very kind. Down to earth, real chat, great channel. It should be bigger. So informative. Bless you. That's very kind. Thank you. But Aunt Sally said, where is it now? What did Aunt Sally say? Here it is. I know the propaganda was fierce back then, but as a Christian, I'd like to think I could have refused to kill on grounds of faith. Of course, the church was also aligned with the blood sacrifice. Actually, you couldn't get out of it unless you had a very rich mummy and daddy who could pay to get you out of it, or you've been a member of the Peace Union for about 10 years before the war started. It was very difficult to be a conscientious objector during World War II. And also, if you were a conscientious objector, my mother knew a chap who lived around the corner to her, and he was ragged so much he committed suicide in the end. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I worked with a chap who in the 60s started work in a Tim Joiner's place, and he started talking to someone, and the rest of them, because most of the people that worked there were World War II veterans, said, don't talk to him, he was a conchie during the war. And he was sent this poor sob was sent to Coventry.
Yeah.
Because of it. And it was one of these old fashioned joiners places where people have, worked since they left school and didn't know any other employment. So you could not get out of it at all. You had to be very, 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 very skillful to get out of it, and you had to know the law. So, no, you couldn't.
It does make you wonder when you're saying about these people over in Ireland where they were being effectively starved, whether that was part of their plan to actually
It probably
deliberately
was.
starve the people to force them to think, we'll let you
happened in
starve
India.
for a while and then give you the incentive to come into the army to get food. You
Well,
can see how, where they work.
that's what they did in India. Because sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you.
No.
But I got talking to an Indian chap who said that during World War II, how they got recruits was they would, because there's all different provinces of India, they would actually stop the food going to one of the provinces, and suddenly the recruiting offices were all full up. That's how they did it. So you were spot on there. And Aunt Sally said, where are we? Hang on. Oh, yes. I'd do a Cassius Clay and refuse point blank. Yes, his credibility, or Muhammad Ali, went up in my opinion. Put me in prison or kill me, I wouldn't kill. Well, Muhammad Ali was exceptionally brave, and they did everything they could to because he refused to go to Vietnam. He said, "I've got nothing against Vietnamese people. Why should I go
Yeah.
there?" And when you look at the Vietnam War, what did it prove? What difference did it make? Because look at Vietnam today. There's Americans moving there. They're living there. You know, all that death and destruction. And I think it was the same with you, Paul, when you were younger. All we saw on the television was Vietnam, Vietnam. All the news had was Vietnam. That's all they showed you. And the idea that Britain was not involved in Vietnam is bullshit, because British Special Forces were involved. And we give advice because of what we did in Malaya is and the same in the Boer War, we had a scorched earth policy, and that is the enemy. They put into what they did. They put the enemy's families into camps and burnt all their crops, so the enemy had nothing to live on, and that's how the British won the Boer War, and that's what they did in Malaya, and that's how they won in Malaya. And the Americans were asking advice how they could do that, and they tried it in Vietnam, but it didn't work because it was coming through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, from North Vietnam. But yeah, so that's a little bit of history there that not many people know, which you don't hear in the official history books.
Here's one worth looking at. I mean, if anybody wants to know what the true nature of war really represents, just have a look at the new building that NATO occupy in Belgium. And I encourage everybody, if you haven't seen it, just to do some sort of internet search and have a look at the plan view of the building that they occupy. And if you're familiar with the Nazi SS, the Schutzstaffel, the SS battalion, they came with a symbol which is like two lightning bolts. That's what NATO occupy. The Nazi SS symbol, a building shaped like that. Then have a look at where the United Nations building in New York occupies, situated beside 666 First Avenue. There's reasons behind all this, yeah. There's reasons behind all of this.
Not all SS were evil, because they say that, but I've got a book written by a Jewish lady, and her family were helped out of Germany, she's a German Jew, by a senior SS chap, and he was a really senior bloke who risked his life, and he got him out.
There is elements of compassion in all. Do you know what I will say? All the soldiers I work with in my unit were outstanding blokes, personal friends, outstanding people. I would say even the majority of them were massively compassionate and caring, and all, just like myself, wanted to do the best for the people of the country. That was genuinely how we felt in our hearts and in our minds. One of the problems with this is, and even though it sounds so simple, objective morality has been completely eroded from our understanding by mind control, to the point where we might understand what the difference between a right and a wrong, but we can't apply it because we are under so much mind control at the bequest of government interjection. To the point, and this is what moral relativism is. It eliminates our conscious appreciation and acceptance of the difference between right and wrong. So we believe, as I did as a soldier, that I'm doing the right thing because my government has said this is the right thing to do. No, it's not. It's the wrong thing to do because it involves harm to another human being. All the actions of a soldier is designed to destroy the lives of other individuals. But of course, there's a lot of, you could say, black magic in between and propaganda where these people have done X, Y, and Z, so therefore we need to now do X, Y, and Z back to them. But this is how the mind war works, and this is why. And as I held up this book earlier, this is why government is the most dangerous superstition, because we believe in our minds that we're doing the right thing when what we're doing is actually the exact opposite of the right thing. This is why government and all the organizations that make it run, and this is things like the police and the military, even though this probably sounds like I'm a crazy person to a lot of people, these need to be eliminated out of society, out of the fabric of society. I'm not saying overnight, because it's not going to happen that way, but what we're going through at the minute is a learning process. The start of the cognitive warfare, known as CV-19, that was cognitive warfare, a psyop of the highest magnitude in order to do various other naughty things, which I probably can't mention on YouTube for fear of censorship. This was cognitive warfare. When a government creates cognitive warfare on innocent civilians, that is a war crime. That means they are acting unlawfully, but we are acting unlawfully because we are supporting unlawful terrorism. The look up the definition of terrorism, and you'll see that it's something along the lines of actions perpetrated upon people in order to cause fear and alarm, distress, and all of that kind of thing. I don't know the exact wording. That's exactly what government are doing. That's what they're doing with digital ID. That's what they're doing with many of the things that they're introducing into society. Why? Because the government are at war with us. It's as simple as that. We need to stop. We need to come to a mature understanding. The government are at war with us. Why? Because they want to use us to propagate their own ill-gotten gains. Why are we still supporting it? Nobody with a number of brain cells should be supporting government in any way, shape, or form, knowing what we've just discussed tonight.
It's acts of treason, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's what they're doing is treason, which is still, well, didn't Evil Blair sort of stop
1997. That's right.
To hang
he
them,
changed it.
That's where it should be.
He changed it to life imprisonment, and that's null and void because you can't change it. It's the 1848 Treason and Sedition Act, and Tony Blair changed it, and he couldn't have done it. You know, this is really quite. It's quite interesting because it's like I often said. There's two versions of World War II. What really happened and the Hollywood version. And unfortunately, people believe the Hollywood version. Yeah. And there's probably two versions. You probably see things in films, Steve, that really make your blood boil. You think, that is bloody ridiculous. They couldn't have done that. And I'll tell you one that gets me. They showed this. People taking cover behind car doors. The bullet just goes straight through the door. You know, was it Bruce Willis? Yeah, you see bullets bouncing off of car doors. No, they don't. They go straight through. I'm not an army person, but I do know they go straight through. And I'll tell you another one that got my dad was Saving Private Ryan. They're shouting orders at each other on the beach. He said it was so loud, your ears, you're just deafened. And he said your ears were ringing. It was painful. The noise was absolutely, and some blokes, blood was coming out of their ears because the explosions. I think it happened to be deaf. And he said, see, there he is. Was it Steve, what's the name? I can't remember. Hanks, wasn't it? Shouting on, okay, or it's bullshit. No, it's bullshit. And it's it's quite interesting, you know. Some of the things he said, where you see the difference between the truth and what they put on at the films. That's it. Anyway, I don't know about you, but I think we've been several hours on this, come out to 11 o'clock.
Wow.
And it's time for Betty Buys, I think. What
It
a
is.
fantastic show. I really enjoyed it. And I can't thank you all, everybody that's contributed to this show. And that is, in the studio and in the chat. What a fantastic crew. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated.
Brilliant.
I hope if you're not working, you can join us tomorrow. What is it, Paul? 10:30, isn't it? On
10:30 in the morning. It'll be recording up on the things. I don't know. We'll find out how many people have got a proper job then or not, won't we?
We will. Oh, and also, Steve, everybody's itching. This thing you're going to on the was it the 17th of December up in some place up north. Have you got a postcode so people can find it? Because it might end up
at the minute I don't. I mean, if anyone's on the Occult Academy channel, I'll put some details on that, and I mean, I'll forward something as I find out on your channel too, if that's all right, Eric.
And thanks, Nathan. That's very kind. Many thanks, Chris, Steve, Paul. And yes, thanks, mate. And Caroline, was it now? Thank you, guys. And someone's asked, Chris, whether you can play us out with a tune. So where are we? Yes. Daisy said, "Can we finish with a tune?"
I'll have to think of one. That's me exhausted with tunes. Yeah, I'll play another tune. Just switch off at any time.
Can you do a Bee Gees number this time?
Yeah, God.
I've got to go to sleep, Paul. Come on. I don't want that ringing around me. Bee Gees, I've got to try and get to sleep. Good grief.
Can I?
Do you remember that?
Can I thank everybody in chat? By the way, I've been reading all the comments. There's some
brilliant
comments.
Yeah.
I'd like. Can I say thanks to lots of the comments that have been coming in. Carolyn, Daisy, Aunt Sally, Hachi. I've read all the comments. There's some brilliant stuff. William as well from That's Life But Not As We Know It. Top lad.
That's fantastic. And right, can you do I farted, I whistled through my wire fronts, I blew my bleeding brains out, oh, I've dropped my guts. Oh, sorry, that's a terrible
Shall I play something a bit more mellow?
Okay, right. Oh, by the way, before we go, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh. So there we go. Brilliant. You're a bloody good player, I'll tell you that. Are you thinking of teaming up with Dan?
Thank you, Steve.
Who was on last night. Thanks, Steve. That was bloody good. Really good. And I was really, we're getting some really good musicians on this show. Last night, we had, what was his name? Trevor John and Dan of Whom by Fire. And tonight we got Steve. Brilliant. Anyway, thank you, everyone. And as I said earlier, whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh, and please join us. Join us tomorrow morning at 10:30. That's UK time, and also on Paul's show, Paul English Live on Rumble this Thursday. Anything coming up special on there this Thursday, Paul?
No, I thought we'd have 3 hours of silence. Creative thinking for the audience, and we'll say something once an hour, and then we'll move on. Yeah, so we'll have a big meditation thing for 3 hours, and that's it. Yeah, so it's going to be quite exciting and different. It's the world's first completely silent radio talk show.
With the occasional.
Does it? Yeah. Shout out to everybody in chat tonight. Anyway, I've been tracking too. It's really good, and always a pleasure, Eric, to be here with you on a Mondays. Enjoy it a lot.
It's a pleasure to have
Steve
you,
and Paul.
I'll tell you something.
Thanks, mate. You too.
Bloody lucky bloke I am to have such nice people around me. I really feel honoured. Thank you so
You
much.
are. Think about us, Eric. Think about poor old us.
I've lost an hour's beauty sleep here.
Anyway, night, folks, and thank you.
See
very
everybody
much.
at 10:30 tomorrow morning. Come on, and if you've got work, don't bother. Nobody needs it anyway. It's a waste of time. So pack it
That's
in.
it.
It's a really bad habit. It's a 4-letter word work, so give it up. And
Was it?
anyway.
It's the curse of as Oscar Wilde said. It's the curse of the drinking classes. Work,
Yes,
which it is.
something like that.
Anyway, good night, and thank you.
Good night, all.